Namaste, Adab, Sat Sri Akal. A very good afternoon to you. Happy Diwali to all my friends, particularly to the non-Hindus, because the Hindus know about it. Special Diwali to my Muslim friends, my Buddhist friends, my Jain friends, and even the very large population of Christian friends or failed Christians or failed Hindus or failed Muslims. It's a celebration. It's nothing to do with religion, really. It's a cultural thing. Diwali is a festival of lights, and in the background, though we are talking in English, you shall hear some Hindi film songs which are celebrating Diwali. Happy songs only. So here we go. Today we have a very fascinating show. We've got two people in wheelchairs. Well, we're all sitting on wheelchairs. I'm sitting on an executive wheelchair with 5 little wheels. Somebody sent me an email. What I really want to do is to share with you the feelings of two generations of families, two completely different generations. We've got a young lad of 21 and a young lad of 51?
61.
61. Oh my God. You're 40 years older than him.
Something like that.
Aye. So it's a very different feel, isn't it?
I was that old.
Isn't it a very different feel about how we treat... I'll just put the volume up.
Well, I'm imagining so that going back to this is Steve, wheelchair Steve. He hasn't done the introductions yet.
Yeah, sorry.
He's,
Well, you introduce everyone.
well, I'll introduce. Steve, wheelchair Steve, who's the regular on this Thursday program. And if you remember last week, if you listened in, we had Tom, Phil, and Rod Pugh, who were developing a new wheelchair, and that chair was being developed for their son Tom, who was here today in his normal wheelchair. And what we're going to talk about is Tom, as you've just heard there, is a lot younger than me, and we're going to talk about the how things are different from my day as being brought up with it.
From both sides, from the public's perception of how they receive people who happen to be in a wheelchair.
Definitely.
Or people, I mean, it goes against equality, diversity and all that stuff. But let's stick to...
Well, I was born and brought up as a child in the pre-DDA, Disability Discrimination Act times.
So what were you called? A cripple?
Well, I've been called a cripple, yes.
So cripple...
Not so much, I was never... I've been called a cripple once.
Well, I've been called a packy twice.
The one that you used to be called was handicapped or an invalid.
Handicapped is slightly... Invalid is another bad word.
Well, handicapped is still what they use in the States, I think. If you go there, it's handicapped.
That whole country is handicapped.
Well, possibly, but they call like the blue badge that we have here, they call it the handicapped.
The blue badge, which was the orange badge.
Which used to be the orange one.
And then I'm an Indian who's not a red Indian, but carry on. Sorry. These are just words meant to confuse and obfuscate.
Yes. And even I'm not great comfort with the word disabled because... to me, people get called the disabled. You know, you're part of a clan that is...
You're put in a tribe of disabled people, so you stay disabled.
For me, you're... everybody, and perhaps yourself as well, is you're going in and out of disability for various circumstances.
Well, people are disabled with fear when they start speaking in public or singing a song in public.
Absolutely, yes.
That's a disability.
It's disabled from what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. So when I try to walk, and Tom will be the same as this, we cannot do it. We're disabled in terms of walking, but we're getting our wheelchairs. Wow. We're given freedom to get out and about. We'll become not disabled at that point in time. We're sitting here talking now.
And would you say, which do you think has worked better? The technology of how wheelchairs work, or the people's attitude, or the terminology of how you're labelled?
Well, I think one of the problems I'm finding in trying to get more people to use wheelchairs, I'm trying to find out how many wheelchairs are there in the world, and all I can find is people doing estimates and based on ratios of all sorts of things. But the estimate from the World Health Organization is that there's somewhere around about 70 million people need a wheelchair in the world, and only as few as 5 to 15% can get a wheelchair. Now, there's a lot of people, particularly older ones, I find, that would benefit from getting out and about in a wheelchair because they're unable to walk for various mobility reasons, arthritis, or you know the list, Doc, of all the sort of things that would stop somebody that's getting older from walking out and about. If they got in a wheelchair, they get out in the fresh air, and that helps to make you healthier, I think. But there's this stigma attached with these labels that many of the older generation remember from my time and before, is how you labelled somebody that was...
slightly out of
was
your comfort zone,
not the norm, and
whatever the words are. In the UK, if you have red hair, if you got brown skin, or wear different kinds of clothes, or have a stutter or a stammer, I mean, the wheelchair is the most obvious thing, like a hijab or something.
Yes.
It's so visible. So you can see it from half a mile away or at
right.
least 200 yards away. So that kind of thing sticks in your head. But someone is stammering, they were treated badly. People who are deaf, they're called thick. Older people are deaf and thick. They're not, man. I'm 68. I'm neither deaf. Well, I'm a bit thick, but I'm not deaf.
Well, even calling yourself old. Do you feel old? You don't.
I don't
You
bloody
don't?
feel old.
Well,
I
you
mean,
don't.
no,
You're dressed
I don't
there today,
behave.
a
I'm
very
dressed like
smart
what?
Shirt. We need to
Yeah,
put
we're
the
gonna put the
camera
camera
on there. Where the program has been produced today by Rupert the Bear. Yeah, that.
The bears are brown, I'm brown. No, but it's a perception thing, People talk about racism. I am more racist to the police than they are to me. When the police stop me, they'll say, and what were you doing with your phone? I said, I was not doing this. No, what were you doing? I said, actually, I was videoing. Why? I said, sorry, the weather is so good, I thought I'd video and send. But the car is parked on red light. So he says, okay, what's your Christian name? I said, there you are. I'm a Muslim. I'm not. I'm a Muslim and you really offended me. And they start stammering and stuttering. And so somehow racism is the only thing you can't do. Otherwise, treating people badly is okay. If you're a Sunderland supporter, and people do it very subtly. I've seen in McDonald's, which I've studied, the guys there are highly trained. The lads and lasses who work on the front desk, they're very good people. And they're trained in this, and we have trained them further on when they didn't need any. But I can see there's a guy who's gay. I didn't even see him as gay. Okay, he's a bit kind of gentle. But I didn't see, I thought he was a very gentle man. But I saw from behind him while I was filming, some people come and walk past him. As I saw men and women walk past a girl in a hijab. So English people are very clever at disguising their bad attitudes.
Yes.
Because English people are very polite. But they're just as racist as anybody else. They do it politely. Would you agree with that?
Can
I mean,
just
yes. Oh, here's an Englishman who's speaking.
One of the problems we have in our society is that we get easily embarrassed. And quite often when we're embarrassed, when we're confronted with something,
You look away.
we don't. We do say the wrong things and things.
Okay.
So we have great difficulty accepting and understanding and confronting things like disabilities. And that's just
Or
what comes
bereavement.
or bereavement.
I go to Asda and my son had died about 7 years ago and 8 years ago. He committed suicide. For 6 months, whenever I went into any aisle, all the patients who knew me would change their aisle and start buying something else they didn't want or need, It's true because they are embarrassed.
They don't know what to say. Yes.
They know what to say, yeah. So possibly that's what it is, And is that why English people need more political correctness than, say, in India?
No, I think the
India doesn't need political correctness.
I don't know.
we
I don't know
don't
if political
either.
correctness is the right thing, because what you start to get, when we were talking about this a few weeks ago, about you get some government boffin who comes out with all these words that we're supposed to use. Well, they're not going to stick. It doesn't matter. It's about just treating somebody as a person.
Yeah.
Ignoring whether what color the skin is, what gender, what age, whether they've got a disability or not. It's treating somebody as a person.
Yes.
And if we can
But
do
that is
that,
very difficult,
Oh, it is, absolutely.
Now, I've said this on many shows. A lot of people, when they've come to the studio, would say, Dr. Anand, because that happens to be your name, or say Anand. Anand, who's on radio, is more relevant. The Asian guy who's loud and rude and crude, which is also true. So it's how you label people, how you put a sticker on their foreheads.
Yes.
If I meet a lady who's very good in therapy, I don't have to say that Iranian Muslim woman. I'll say the lady who's a good therapist. So it's relevant to the cause,
Yes.
isn't
Yes. It doesn't matter whether you.
I mean, really, the team we have here are very much into disability. So if we are talking disability, I'll say the wheelchair champion of disability, Steve. It makes sense.
Yes.
But otherwise, if say you were filming something, I say
It's irrelevant, yes.
friend Steve is filming, or the disabled guy within brackets with 4 wheels. That is an add-on.
No, it's Steve who goes around in a wheelchair, as opposed to
But that's only when
disabled Steve Wilkinson.
even the wheelchair, if it's relevant to the conversation.
Yes.
If they say he'll have to come upstairs, is the first floor. I said,
Yes.
do you have disability access?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just say, I have nothing against women. Why have I said that? Because I have something against women. Why have I mentioned the topic of women when you're not discussing women?
No.
Isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. It's and I think the problem is, this is where we're talking about the generations. It goes back to with people living longer now. Old people like yourself who are young at heart.
Dead by now.
Well, you would have been many years ago, wouldn't you? You would have been well
At
past.
Shakespeare's time, they died at the age of 48 to
That's
49.
right.
That was a life expectancy. Thank God for that. They were married for life, but the buggers died before they had divorced. They never got a effing chance,
But you'll know yourself from research that's going on now that they reckon that more than 50% of people that are born now are gonna live till 100.
My
So
God.
what you've got is and the existing generations are getting the 80s and
Yes.
90s.
Yes.
They're still thinking like they did when they were younger. So
Well,
these
yes,
sort of
sir.
stigmas and attitudes to disability and all of the other things you talk about, race, is going to be stuck there. And it's
Well,
going
you
to
know,
be
the days of conquering other races, whoever did it, whether it was a white man, green man, pink man, Muslim man, Turkish man, Mughal man, Genghis Khan, it doesn't matter. Those days are gone. China is no threat to India. Do you know why? It needs to sell its iPhones. But
Well,
in the
yes.
commercial world, a vacuum, Dyson is manufactured in China. So how can they attack England? Not that they can, it's too far away. But the whole world is now connecting in a very happy way, that we are connecting in a more positive, collaborative way, because we have to collaborate.
We do.
What do you say? You're a budding and at the point of manufacturing things. If you turn the mic towards yourself. If you had Phil to manufacture your items in China, how can you feel badly towards them?
You can't.
Because they're part of you.
They're an extension to your family.
Yes.
So, yeah, a global market hasn't, but
Yeah.
hopefully will bring us all closer
It
together.
is. People are scared, and little things like when there's a big hoo-ha in the British Parliament about giving bribes in Saudi Arabia for jet planes. Get over it, man. That's their culture.
I know, but again, talking about culture and talking about just the beast, the human, even though at the top level we feel we're integrating, we still have all of those issues about
To get
jobs.
over.
Well, jobs going abroad.
Yes.
So as soon as we would say, right, we're going to manufacture in China or somewhere outside of the UK,
Yes.
there is a consequence. Why don't we manufacture inside the UK? Now, the argument changes from one that is cultural and social to
Yes.
one that becomes financial and political
Yes.
and commercial.
Yes.
And that muddies the water.
Yes.
We can't separate them. In our present social model, we can't. We find it impossible. And therefore, we never come to the right conclusions, and we still have...
But for all the wrong reasons, India and Pakistan hate each other. But once they start exchanging sugar, music,
Yes.
facilities, now how can they hate each other? How can you? Imagine your wheelchair wheels were made in... The left wheel is made in Sunderland and the right wheel made in Newcastle. How can you hate each other, man?
Which is built.
I would buy 2 Newcastle wheels.
You see, tribalism is of the lowest essence. People don't want to hear this, but if you're a tribal, if you're a nationalist, if you're a religious bigot, and don't keep religion in your own heart, but have to tell Dr. Anand what you are, you're a tribal. It's so sad. People don't, if you look at the human brain, the top 85% is non-tribal. It's from mixing with new people. They might be white, they might even be disabled. They might even be able-bodied. They might even be well-spoken.
But it's first impressions, isn't it? That's the thing that when you see somebody, the first few seconds of seeing somebody, you make an impression, and as you said earlier on, they see the colour of your skin, they see somebody in a wheelchair,
And that's it.
They're then starting to visualise what
A wheelchair person should be.
what their perception is from years gone by, or what their families have said about people in wheelchairs. Whatever they've been brought up with
Okay.
who a person in a wheelchair is, or
Okay.
how they behave.
Okay. Isn't it time for Tom to tell us some jokes? Because we're talking so serious, man. Dad, come on, say some jokes that Tom will laugh at. I want to see his laughter.
Okay, Tom, what do you reckon? Should we have the joke about why do jelly beans go to school?
Why do jelly beans go to school?
Do you know why, Tom? Because they want to be smarties.
Oh!
Just look at those viewing figures going up
I think that's funny.
on this radio program.
Or on the other hand, you could say, what do you call a train full of lecturers or professors?
What do you call a train full of lecturers or professors?
A tube of smarties.
Oh, God. I I, 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 I,
I can't remember getting these from
Rod.
my era. I had Smarties. I remember
Rod.
Smarties,
Yeah.
but never.
Do you think your dad is an eternal kid, a Peter Pan?
Even
the
less than
Which-
a-
Are you more mature than your dad?
definitely.
My son thinks the same about me.
Actually,
Shish.
you reminded me about Peter Pan. So why would you never fly with Peter Pan?
Why would I never fly with Peter
Oh.
Pan?
Why wouldn't you? Because.
Why would you
Busy
not?
laughing? Because you'll never land.
Oh.
Prime example.
Okay. I know. What's the difference between a letterbox and an elephant?
Tell me.
If you don't know, I would never give you a letter to post. See, my jokes are the funniest because I know very few, but I say them well.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that
He's
you.
suggesting what you should have learned ages ago.
No, I suggest you do the
He's
script.
older.
I'll do the presentation. Okay, so
Oh
tell me, Phil, as a father of a child who's in a wheelchair, and how long have you known Steve, by the way?
Oh.
Well,
yes.
about 5 years ago when we first met, we've been doing stuff recently with the wheelchair.
With the
'cause we
wheelchair, so
did
you
the-
know he knows you quite well.
Oh yes.
So tell me, what would you visualize as the difficulties that Steve would have had and your son would have had? That is from their personal points of view, a generational thing.
The basic problems still exist. I mean, if you say, have we resolved in our society in the UK problems to enable people with disabilities, using that term in the widest of senses, no, those problems still exist. So yeah, we have legislation, we have more compliant.
But that's in
building
books,
regs.
that's on paper, that's on the
Well,
internet.
You know, the thing. If you said to me personally, what have I found?
Yes, exactly
Okay.
your personal point of
I
view.
found that in a lot more restaurants, I can take Tom to the loo because the toilets have been made bigger.
So
not-
wider.
and longer, because with Tom, I need to get his wheelchair in.
Yes.
I need to tip it back. You think about the space that's needed. I need to lift him up. As somebody of Tom's age, as an adult,
With the weight that he carries.
they can't cater for something in that loo for me to put him on. So where do I put you, Tom? Hang on. Where do I put you when I take you to the loo in public places? On the floor.
So you have to actually literally
Oh, yeah.
tip the wheelchair, lift him
out,
up, and you're
on the
quite a
floor.
strong guy. And not every parent is like that.
No,
And then you actually land him on the floor.
I lay him on the floor and I will get him ready. And he has to go back on the floor, then for me to get him dressed and lift him up and put him back into the
So how
wheelchair.
long does the whole operation take?
It takes about an eighth of the time that it would take his support workers to do it, and they couldn't do it anyway because they don't have lifts in there. But I mean, depending on the jokes that Tom and I will crack, and we will often, well, in fact, you should ask his brother or one of his brothers, because they have to wait outside. It could be 15 minutes.
So 15 minutes forward takes us 30 seconds.
Yeah.
For the average person,
Yeah.
just unzip, piss. If you wash your hands, maybe 31 seconds.
Yes. But if you asked me though,
I'm
what
not taking the piss like.
you asked me what the
Or washing it off
change
your
for
hands.
me
Yeah.
as a father.
Yes.
That
Yes,
has been
that-
significant
that-
for
tell
me.
us, tell us.
So it means that when I go into a pub, because Tom likes to go in for a beer, I now can
He's
go
looking
in,
drunk just now. Look at him. Rolling his
He
eyes.
made
and-
me drink after the North Run. Tom
I
kept
can
going and
now
getting
go
more drinks.
into you do go.
What does that mean?
I can go to
don't.
you do. Oh, you mean on the pub in his village he's not going to at the moment. That's another
Okay.
story.
Okay.
But it means that the newer pubs will have facilities that I can use. So I can confidently take Tom.
Knowing
when-
that the toilet is big
knowing-
enough.
Yes, and knowing that when he says, I want to go to the loo, I don't have to say, well, you'll have to wait till you get home. I can say, let's go.
And,
Just like
but
you
that
and I
still
can
takes
do.
15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. And I.
But are there toilets where you just can't take a wheelchair in? Whatever. They're so narrow.
They have to be disabled, enabled.
So even in the enabled toilet, it's still 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And there's some toilets you just can't enter.
There are some disabled toilets I can't get his wheelchair in and get him out. So
Is there any way you can unzip his trousers and give him a urinal, one of those potty in the toilet, of course? Have you ever tried that?
Yes, I have.
And does that ever work?
Well, it's the customer, the client, and my son. So
Who doesn't like it? As an adult, he feels
doesn't.
ashamed.
Well, no. If you think about, and as a doctor, you'll be aware, if you're in that seated position,
Then
quite
the-
often we want to do a pee standing up or sitting down.
Yes,
It's
so mentally you're used to standing up.
let
and
go, release. I want to do it.
Well, after my vasectomy, I couldn't pee in the bed because my mother told me at the age of 6 months, don't pee in the bed. So that's still stuck in my training.
Yes.
So this, I'm talking about 25 years ago in North Shields Hospital. I couldn't. There were two fears I had. One is wetting the bed, when I came out of anesthesia, and 2 swearing at the nurse in Hindi. The things people worry about.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
Okay, so really being into piss pot is not good enough. For Tom's feeling.
Sometimes
And probably this will translate across the whole board.
I would have thought so.
Steve, how would you feel about doing that in your car? Have you ever done it in your car?
Yes.
So what have you used? A Coke bottle?
Coke bottle, cup.
Because it is difficult.
They do, you know, in I think is it New York where they don't have public toilets at all, and taxi drivers go and get a cup of coffee in the morning, and that's their toilet for the rest of the day, the empty cup. So it's not.
One of my friend's son is in the Indian Air Force, and his mother was asking me, how can you get something that old people piddle into? Because sometimes they have to be in the air for a long time, and there ain't no toilets in the air.
When you can open the window and do it.
Yeah, I understand. Oh, but the roses down below would be much nicer.
What was that, rain?
Acid rain.
Acid rain. Oh, God.
Oh, Taj Mahal has melted away. So these are things that we sometimes can and sometimes can't because of our mental block as well.
I think what was interesting about what Phil just said there is that people don't realise that's what goes on in those toilets.
People don't want to talk about these things.
They don't.
They talk about the nice shirt and tie. You know.
The thing, and this is one of my gripes all the time about things like that, because there are people who will go and use the single, which is usually the case, the single wheelchair accessible toilet. I don't like to call them disabled toilet. A disabled toilet is a broken toilet, as far as I'm concerned.
Which I can't use.
Everybody calls them the disabled toilet.
But in the Beacon, there's two urinals. One is disabled.
It's a wheelchair accessible toilet. Now, what has to happen is that we don't want people going in there using it when they don't need to. You know, what people don't realise is that sort of thing goes on that they've just described. I have a different process, but certainly a process that I couldn't do in a normal toilet. I can't get through the door. I haven't got space. You know, that's the first thing. You get inside the door. You can't shut the door maybe on a normal cubicle if you've managed to get through the door. You can't reach the urinals because they're too high. So you've got to be able to go into a cubicle where you've got reasonable space and room to do. I don't have to get on the floor, but you know I do have to manoeuvre around that requires fair bit of space.
So, how many people who are in wheelchairs, of the proportion of the wheelchair people, are they all needing more than just a disability allowed or wheelchair allowed toilet, or more than that? Do they need something? I mean, other things like things that you can use as lifts and things. I mean, they need devices which are cheap, you know, compared to the trouble you go through, and they're getting cheaper all the time.
Well, one of the things that started to happen, but I think the council were providing what they call changing rooms. I don't know whether you ever used any of them.
What is that?
Well, it's basically a slightly bigger wheelchair accessible toilet that will have kind of a changing table in there. So it might not be relevant in your case in what you're talking about there, but instead it's undignified to have to sit on the floor in a toilet where you don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, that takes a cake. I was saying that really is very, very degrading, difficult, backbreaking for both.
Well,
you know, and dangerous. I mean, you can drop him.
If you think of, well, you can do.
You can actually break his spine. I mean, all sorts of things.
If you think then of the choices that you have, either as a parent or a support worker, or just as partly able-bodied, so you can manoeuvre around, selecting where you might want to go.
Absolutely.
Because that becomes
so your whole life becomes selecting toilets.
Well,
You've gone for bird watching.
It's the first question.
Yes,
I mean, as we talked about that place that you went to with me in Scotswood Road, the end of Scotswood Road, that would just manage to get through the door, but I couldn't have gone to the toilet there.
Yes, I can't keep slating them again and again.
But I think that they're not unique in being in that position. Is that they don't realise.
I really want to speak to the owner and you in private and say, what will it cost you to make a hole in the wall? Do you not like disabled people or what? I want you to record it.
I think the unfortunately the issue is that if you do that, are we going to go? Because we don't know where to go. The thing that I suspect Tom does, because it's the same.
I'll say this,
same with me.
I left a message with Steve Savage. He hasn't rung me back.
Right. Oh yes.
Tonight is Curry Club. Maybe he's choosing to speak then.
Right.
I don't have his mobile because people don't like giving their mobiles. I think every government servant should have a mobile phone for office use. Then you can text and email that they should pick up. Otherwise, you have a secretary doing the job of stopping people. That's what doctors are doing now.
Yes.
My own GP wouldn't take my text because I got him the job actually. I got him into the job he is because I sold him to the practice. And yet, after a while, he stops. He said, could you kindly write to the practice? Well, put something in the practice like emails and texting. You can't, So you ring in the morning like all the other grandmothers who have nothing else to do and wait and wait and wait and wait. This call may be recorded for what? Quality purposes. No, you idiot. You're recording it because training. It's not training. Well, it's catching me out, isn't it, Tom?
Can I just give you a story about that? My doctor has an email, I think, and that we've talked about when I was in Australia and had the heart attack early in the end. I was coming back to the UK and wanting to see GP pretty quickly to say, well, look, I'm coming back with a quite a serious medical condition. So I sent information from Australia to say this is what's gone on. And when I got to see him, he hadn't heard anything about it. And then when I said, well, I sent it on the email, we only use that for complaints. We don't use it for passing information between each other.
So why are we so anti-technology? Is it because it makes life easy, particularly for people in difficulties such as language difficulty, such as stuttering, stammering, such as deafness, such as wheelchair?
Yeah.
They're all getting Tourette's.
Yeah.
As a person with Tourette's will not swear because he's texting. So it makes a lot of people be cut out if you don't use technology appropriately.
But technology also is what it's meant to do, enables me to be talking to you more directly.
Yes.
But we know that there are professions and individuals that will not and do not want to talk to their...
But they shouldn't be in the profession then.
I agree. But then you've already talked about professions where that's now becoming a problem. There are many more of them.
Yesterday I was chatting with a psychiatrist from the Drug Addiction Center. She looks after doctors who have problems with the GMC. I am one of them. And I said, what is the issue, Why do the GMC want to see me? I'm not practicing. She says it's a bit like if you're on the books. I've said I won't practice. I only pay £75 a year just to have some idiot type my name on the thing. She says because they are process driven. They have nothing to do with looking after you or something. As long as you're on the books, they look after you. I say it's a bit like a Jewish mama who strangles you to death with her care. It's stupid, man. And she said that my son was there as well. We had a good half an hour chat. I said it cost me £1.20 an hour to park. I'll come in 6 months if it makes you happy. She said fine. It's just a waste of time and effort and money. I mean,
I'm going through the motions to...
going through the motions and having no shit. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Okay, it's a bit of a break time. If I can find it. Yes, I found it. There we are. It's a bit of break time, so I'll play a break when I find it, and I have found it. Here we go.
Spice FM, to entertain, educate and enlighten. Text us on 800-39 or email us at studio@spicefm.co.uk.
Yeah. Hannah, you're the carer for Tom. What is your duty? What do you do all day with him?
We support Tom in all aspects of his daily life.
So what are the aspects that you cover?
Everything. Everything that we can do independently that Tom may need support with, we help him do that.
Okay, so Tom is not living with his family.
No.
But Tom is living with you guys.
Yeah.
So how many of you look after him?
7.
So there you are. And every one of them is precious. So they're called Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. So the 7 people, have you got the same role looking after him, or do you have managers and actual carers, or what? How do you...
There's a service manager which would oversee the service and a team leader and support with us.
Okay. And like what? You take him to the toilet, you brush his teeth, you chat with him.
Yeah.
You understand him far better than I could because I haven't been long enough with him.
Yeah.
Do you understand everything he says?
Most things.
Tom, does she understand everything you say?
I have to.
He has to repeat sometimes.
Oh, you have to repeat. Well, I have to repeat. Sometimes you got to talk with an Indian accent. What is the difference?
Not even I get everything.
We get that, Tom, don't we?
Okay. And do you understand all his jokes?
No.
But do you tell him jokes?
I'm not very good with jokes.
Well, Phil can train you. He can.
Well, I'm sure he
His
can.
jokes will take 10 years to train. He's got so many in his head. I've never met a person with so many one-liner jokes, and all at the age of 12. Why did the elephant cross the road? Because it wanted to go to the other side. No, that's not a joke. I've got a different one. Kids get very annoyed if you don't give the line they give. Okay. How does it feel like being the carer for somebody who's going to need care all their lives? to you, and you're a young person.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you why, in a sense, why have you chosen this career? It's tough.
I find it quite rewarding, and I'd like to think if myself or one of my family members were in that situation,
That's what you would do.
other people, someone would do the same.
So in a sense, he's your replacement for someone in the family that could have had the same trouble.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I think that deserves a round of applause, really. I think that's a wonderful thing to say, because I've met a lot of carers also looking after older people who say exactly the same words.
Yes.
Or someone old person with cancer. There are a lot of people I met in West End Befrienders. It's a group that looks after old people totally voluntarily. Some people are paid small amounts, but they go and sit with the old people. And I said, why do you do it? She said, my mother's died, but these are my mothers. Same feeling, same exactly. So these are what are called higher satisfiers. See the way she turns because she can't ignore him. It's like a mother looking after the baby. She has to listen. These are higher satisfiers, isn't it? That teachers get, doctors get, policemen get, if they're allowed to function as a full human being. But if they're just abiding by rules and regs, then they miss out. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Because we doctors, when we started, we had much more freedom. And thanks to Mr. Shipman, the late Mr. Shipman, we are now book fillers, typing away. And how much can you write?
On the slightest off chance that
Yes.
you might ultimately kill somebody who wants to.
But then you kill everyone slowly.
Yes.
You ignore people, you forget the subtleties. What is the best aspect of your job, Hanna?
Seeing Tom happy.
Ah.
You get when we're able to support Tom to do something that he wouldn't be able to do independently.
So you enable him to do what Tom wants to do,
Yes.
but something's stopping him, and you take that barrier off.
Yeah.
And that really touches you.
Yeah.
And you're speaking for all of you 7 or 8 or whatever.
We're there to support Tom to live how we could live on our own.
So you put yourself in Tom's shoes. Some things he can express, some things he can't express. As in any case, like if I'm counseling somebody as a doctor, I put myself in their shoes. How would they be feeling if their mother had died or their wife had left or whatever? So it's the same thing, isn't it? You put yourself in Tom's wheelchair.
No.
Mentally.
Yes.
Mentally, of course. Okay.
It's another aspect of removing the disability in some ways.
It's putting
because
yourself in there.
It's having somebody that can do the bits that you can't do and make it feasible. And I'm sure, I know a little bit about the care industry, but that you're always going to try to get Tom to do as much as he can himself.
Yes.
That's always the thing, that you want to make sure that that he's not doing anything that, if he's going to do it, you help him to do it.
Yeah.
But by getting to know him.
We're there to promote independent living as much as
And
possible.
you're not there to impose your personal tastes and values.
No.
Now that is something I want all doctors to listen to, because a lot of doctors say, if I were you, but you're not me. So it is important. Why is he sticking his tongue at me? I haven't done anything. No, he's getting something done. Okay. So, Steve, anything else you want to ask Hanna yourself?
No, I think what you've said is interesting about the satisfaction. I think you should be urging, as you've done there, suggesting how many people could, because there's going to be an increasing need for more people in the care industry. Undoubtedly, as we talked earlier on about the growing aging population that doing the sort of great work you do, and it doesn't matter what age you are. I think I know a lot of people who have retired early that do a little bit of voluntary or paid care workers.
But we had the Jesmond Library here, and there are 100 volunteers who are running it. Pure volunteers, because the council was going to close them down. Sorry, for those who didn't understand, council. I said council.
I've heard of councils, yes.
So, but they run it and they enjoy it. They're not paid. In fact, they put some money in if they can. And they open 3 days a week, and they're serving about 700 people, of which 150 are children, babies, children. So they're getting them to enjoy life. And exactly what you said, when we see the smile on some mother's face that the baby is reading a book, it's the same feeling. It's enabling another human being to do something they couldn't, when you help an old lady cross the road. And Steve, you mentioned the point about aging population. There'll be more and more people in wheelchairs.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, there's plenty of people now. I don't know whether you've come across in the care industry. I don't know how long you've been working in it, but there's a lot of older people who won't go in a wheelchair when they should.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to go down to the shops, they're not going to spend all the time. You shouldn't want to spend all your time in it. If you can walk around and get exercise, you should do that. But there becomes a point where you cannot go over the front door.
Or you're just trying to prove a point that I'll die, but I'll never sit in a wheelchair kind of. There are diehards like
people
that.
that do that, yes.
Yeah.
Because
They see a stigma attached.
Yes, absolutely. That's the thing, is that you see the wheelchair, and as I said earlier on, the first impressions are what you learned when you were a kid.
Yes.
50, 60, 70,
Depending on what your father, mother, teacher, friend.
So that and I think that's the, looking at the generations, I think that's one of the things that has changed, because going to my schooling days, I went to what they called a special school, just up the road from here, the Pendower School on West Road.
I know it.
They didn't have integration at all in those days. When I passed 11 plus and was going to go to the local grammar school, I could walk with sticks, but they said I couldn't do it. Somebody made a decision that I wouldn't be able to cope. They didn't ask me whether or give me a try round the place. Could I get up the stairs? Could I get, walk from one classroom to another? But they made the decision before we even got to try that I wouldn't be able to do it. Ultimately, we persuaded them to give me a trial, and I coped. And that was they started to get a lot more integration. So the good thing is now is that a lot of the schools have a mix of anything. They've got a mix of race. They've got a mix of people with disabilities. Sometimes you need to go to a special school. I think there are dangers when you always try to force somebody into it.
So you'll have 3 people looking after one person, and if there is in a class somebody who's very slow, who needs a lot more attention,
but
then you're putting the whole.
Schools,
but I don't mean physically. I mean, they can't. They have learning difficulties.
Oh yes.
Now he or she is so slow that it'll slow the whole class down, and you gain nothing really.
And also have an impact on them,
on the whole class.
Yes.
But the allegedly able-bodied people should have an experience. What it is, I'll give you a very small example. I had fractured my ankle once. I don't go around breaking bones, but I had twisted my ankle, and I was in a plaster. And I thought, let's see. I mean, I could have got some other thing on, but I thought, let's see what a plaster feels like for 2 weeks. I was going to India. And it's a very different world, It's like wearing a burqa and going out, or wearing a t-shirt and going out, or something different, or glasses even. People are so attitudinal. As soon as you see anything visibly different, your whole face twists and turns and the mind changes. Final question, Hannah. Is this your career for life, or are you looking?
I'd like to think so.
You don't want to be a money-making businesswoman, running a company, making loads of dosh.
No. I'd like a job that I enjoy.
Right. So then it's not a job, then it becomes a vocation.
Yeah. And I enjoy what I do.
So you'll be healthy, happy, and reasonably well off. But if you do something you hate, you'll spend all your money on doctors. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you enjoy the process of what you're doing, if you're in the right place, it's easy.
It's what is it called? There's things that you know the word for it.
I'll find it. Go on.
Begins with derms or something on the end.
Derm? Derm means skin. Ectoderm, endoderm.
Endorphins.
Endorphins means the morphine from inside.
Yes, and that's giving you energy because you're having a satisfaction.
Then you'll smile more.
Absolutely.
People will like you more. You'll be more popular. You'll be less miserable. You'll mourn less. We all like that.
And this is the thing about people getting out in a wheelchair. If you're stuck in the house having to watch Jeremy Kyle or whatever, and you're not getting the fresh air.
Nothing wrong with Jeremy Kyle, I watch him all the time,
Tom likes that. That's what Tom likes.
Oh, sorry. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
You can get on with looking after. And thank you very much for being brave and coming on radio.
Thank you.
Point.
Well, you want to make a point? Yes, make it.
We were talking about. You asked me a question a while ago. The changes.
Yes, that you have noticed between Steve's time and
there is
Tom's
a significant one. There's several. Obviously, when Steve was explaining when he was young, there is a break point where the level of support changes when you go from a child to an adult.
Oh yes.
So a question is there enough adult support for people, I use the term disabilities, special needs? Well, I can't answer that. I can only answer it from Tom's point of view as his father. And I've got to say, the answer is fantastic. Tom has been really very fortunate, despite how unfortunate his life
was. It started as, yes.
In that he happens to have been in the right place at the right time. And that's fantastic. Tom is...
So did you make it the right place and the right time?
We as parents have made sure that whatever we tried to do for Tom, we've fought for. We've had to fight.
Yes.
But the point I wanted to make, though, was that Tom is in a limited group of people. He has the opportunity of living in independent living. So, we have Robin and Hannah here who support him and another team behind him that gives him that independence. What would be the choice given to Tom otherwise? It would come back to his mum and I. So the fear for me as a father and for his mother is that he becomes institutionalised. Now, I know from everybody out there that's listening that's got a form of disability, you are restricted. And if you don't have help, you're institutionalised. whether you're stuck at home watching Jeremy Kyle or whether you're stuck looking out of a window of a nursing home. It doesn't matter. You've got no life. So Tom has been given a fantastic opportunity of independence. That never existed really in the format that it does today when Tom was growing up. For me, it's having that opportunity given to everybody who has that form of disability to give them that enablement. Could we do it with our social model? Absolutely not, because we worry about money.
Yes.
No budgets are slashed.
Though in Britain, your health is completely taken care of by the health service, which I criticize all the time, but it's the best in the world.
Yes. And
Whatever we might say about the health service, of course we waste money. There are people who waste doctors' time and all that. But having said all this, it's the only health service that's free at the point of consumption. It's not perfect, but it's as good as humans can make it. I have to say that. But the same is.
Well, there's no free lunch, is there? You can't have something. So you've got to be paying
but there are users and abusers, both from doctors' side. But in the social model, we should have exactly the same.
yes, we should.
The people should be able to get what they need. But then there are abusers. I've seen for attendance allowance. I used to watch people come to the surgery limping away, and I would peep outside the glazed window where the clear glass was. I had to stand on the windowsill, a low windowsill, and I see them walk away. So as long as the doctor was impressed that they were disabled with a walking stick. So there's a lot of that goes on. But that harms the genuine people.
It does. There's another fact, if I can broaden it,
Go on.
and that is Rod is one of Tom's brothers, sitting over there in the corner. Having a disabled brother
In the family,
also
yes.
has had an effect upon his and his siblings.
Okay, Rod, you'll
in
be
one way or
on next.
another. So it's an impact that's much wider. Not a negative one, if you want to treat it that way, but a more positive one. Tom enriches my life. What he does.
You're allowed to
Rod,
crack jokes to him,
and I can crack joke to him.
It's just the idea makes him laugh.
Jokes.
It's called neuro-associative state. When dad is around, he laughs because he knows dad is going to say something stupid and daft and will make him.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, that we know. But it's that. I was going to crack a joke.
It's so funny. You don't need to crack a joke. We all cracked up anyway.
What do you think, Tom? What do you?
What do you
Right.
think about it, Tom?
What do you?
So basically, Phil, you're saying that if we didn't have the support that you're saying lucky enough to have, and I call it synchronicity.
Yes.
You desired it so much it happened.
Yes.
My mother is 87. She got 37 hours of care and they had cut down by 2.5 hours. In this day and age of cuts, my mother is getting 37 hours of care by women who speak her language. How much better can it be? The Prime Minister of India won't receive it.
No.
Chief Minister's daughters in India, actresses, are over cared for and die during cesarean section.
Yes.
So, wherever there's money, it changes the relationship. In America, people die of overtreatment.
Yes.
Michael Jackson, for one.
That's a good example.
And there are many such people. But in this country, because we don't pay, therefore people can become lazy and overusers. But nobody does it for the money. Nobody needs to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we ask Rod what he thinks? Rod, let's give you a moment of glory. As if you need it. Yeah. Yes, you'll have lots of. And Dad, you're sitting next to him. Please don't crack any jokes.
Sure.
He comes with a health warning, doesn't he?
I should.
I
do.
crack bad
Sticker,
joke.
Yeah.
Not.
Who's there?
Catch up.
Oh,
Tom's ready.
Catch up. Who?
Catch up. Full star and.
Go on, sit.
I have to live with this.
Knock, knock.
Who's that?
Can't you use the doorbell for God's sake?
Not.
Who's there?
Harmony.
How many?
Jokes we don't have.
Thank God for somebody to put a block on it.
Okay, Rod, can we get grown up and adult? I hope your girlfriend never sees this.
Well,
She'll never want to come to your house, with your dad there and Tom encouraging him all the time.
She seems to like Dad for some reason. I've told her, I've warned her, but to be fair, she's only met him once.
Did I have my shorts on?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Or just your pants.
All right, okay, there we go.
Oh my! Oh wow! So, who's older?
What, me or Tom? Tom's older.
Okay,
Tom's 26, I'm 22.
22. So, when he was 4, you were born.
Yeah.
What's your first memory of life generally? Anything.
My first memory
Of
life.
anything, a cat or a circus or a dog or dad or a joke even, yes.
No, thankfully the jokes have only been a recent thing.
What's your first memory of life, of anything important? Granddad, school, whatever. Very first memory.
I think Christmas, early Christmas is the thing that stands out in my mind. I can't remember exactly
What,
when.
Santa Claus coming and...
Santa Claus, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that I was 3 years old or 2 years old, but I think that's what stands out.
So you were 4?
Around
Something
there, I'd say.
around that.
I'd estimate, yeah.
What's your first memory of Tom?
God, that is...
Did you think you were different because you didn't have a chair?
No, to be honest, it's not really something that's...
As someone from within the family, born in a family where Tom is already established.
Exactly, yeah. So I came into it in that situation was already there, so it didn't seem unusual to me.
But when you went to school, you saw people without wheelchairs.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
So did you think what's wrong with these people? They walk on two white things called legs.
No, not at all. Obviously, we went to different schools.
Okay.
Obviously, Tom went to a school for people who need support. Priory, yeah.
The Priory, yeah?
Yeah, and I went. Me and my other brother went to a different school.
Your other brother, so you got 3 brothers.
Yeah, the other one's younger again. He's 20.
So you're the middle neglected brother anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh.
No one hears.
He's
my
neither the
cries.
Ben and he's not with a wheelchair. So.
He's not. Is it?
Oh.
Thank goodness, eh?
Okay. All right. So, did he ever get in the way? Did you ever feel neglected?
No, I didn't.
So do you think your parents handled it very well? Because there are parents who so overdo. I know some Asian families where the mother did so much for the first child who was more disabled than Tom is, and the second child became a nurse to the child and never had a childhood.
No.
You never had that.
No, it's not like that. Obviously, I helped. And so did Alex when we were younger. We helped out. Dad worked away a lot of the weeks, so when we were, it was often just me, Tom, Alex, and my mum. So between the 3 of us, obviously she did the brunt of the work, but we helped her out.
Because it was the natural thing to do.
Exactly, yeah. It was normal. You help your mum doing stuff.
But then, do you not think you have learned some things about helping human beings? Never mind whether they're in a wheelchair or out of it.
Yeah, I think
that habit,
you
that
learn
humanness.
an element of compassion.
The Buddhist thing, which you talk about. The Buddhists talk about it more than others do it.
Which other people might not appreciate. I'm sure they could learn it if they were in a similar sort of situation.
So being so close to Tom, it felt very natural to you to see other human beings as part of yourself, an extension of
almost.
of Lord.
Yeah. That's quite a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Instead of he's in a wheelchair and I'm not. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's no. I don't see it like
so
that.
So you felt no resentment in having a child eating up so much of parental. I don't mean financials. I mean psychic energy.
No, I don't. Obviously, well, we went up. Me and Alex went off. We went to boarding school. So then a lot of the time we weren't at home. So we were sort of separated from that environment. But no.
But when you came back, it was oh dear. No, it didn't feel like that at all.
No, certainly not.
In fact, if anything, you were blessed to have Tom in the house.
I think so. Yeah.
As a person, you grow. Your character.
Yeah, you've
grew.
Seen what a bright spark he is.
Oh God, he's a sparkler, and he's the matchstick next to me. He's the lighter.
If I say,
Don't encourage him.
Watch Roderick's face and Thomas's. If I say micmacs, then one of your question about that sort of integration in the family. There are events in a family's day where we used to where the other 2 would be involved in things with Tom, and it would be made. It's a bit of a family.
That's right.
Event.
Again,
and
absolutely.
Micmac is one of those.
Okay. I think that's a wonderful thing you're saying, because I've noticed parents, if they're 2 boys in particular are very combative. Girls are not. But even in girls, this jealousy is so easily roused, and if parents don't know how to handle it. When I was 2, my sister was born. I was 2.5, and my mother was giving her my old pillow to get me a nice new one. But I wouldn't let go of the old one. I didn't want the new one. It's my patch. It's my territory. It's like what a puppy would do. So there's a lot of, but my mother tells me these things, and my mother's a psychologist. She said, I just give you both, and then you say, I don't want my old one. So she let me grow into liking the old one instead of my sister taking away my ugly, dirty, smelly old one.
Yeah.
But these are things. Some parents say, okay, come on. You want to play mummy? Yes. Go and get the nappies for the little baby. You're the mummy. Instead of the child feeling envious. So it's how the parents handle that jealousy thing, which I think lasts a lifetime.
And well, we weren't restricted in what we did. For example, we took well, when we went anywhere with mum and dad, we took Tom with us. So
so he wasn't kind of set aside.
Exactly. So
he wasn't the Cinderella of the house.
No.
I mean, I didn't mean to call you too ugly, but.
But in that respect, it didn't restrict what.
What's Tom saying? Hello.
Parts of one of the sort of things we would do is each day to help Tom with his physiotherapy, we had a trike. And,
so you're fully involved?
Oh yeah, and his brothers are.
Okay.
We would have a trike, he would go on the trike and he would go for miles with me and his brothers. And one day he's saying the seat which held him into position on the trike broke, but it broke in a very slow way. I was on my own with him and I lay underneath the trike as the seat slowly lowered on top of me, so I would break his fall. So I was stuck.
God, you were the shock absorber. You were the mat.
A few times.
You know, in movies when heroes jump, they jump on a mat. You are that mat.
Yes. And so that's what he's saying. The wheelchair, the trike broke, and it was strapped in, so we had fun undoing that and then getting it back. And it happened again when we were in the States. We were
with a wheelchair.
With a wheelchair.
So you really understand all aspects of Tom's needs, including sheer weight and Young's modulus of elasticity.
Exactly. In very fast anatomy. Yes.
Bringing back A-level physics, no?
Yes. Yeah. But that's what it is. So really, the whole family has looked after Tom. So tell me, I've got still 6 minutes till the break, and then we'll bring the other carer in. How does it feel like being at home without Tom?
Well, obviously being away, we've been in different areas, sort of, so we haven't been together as a family. People have been away doing different things, so it's sort of normality now.
So you're like boarding school helped with that.
Exactly, yeah. And now Tom's away in supported living. Granted, he's not far away.
How far is he?
30 miles, is it? Something like that. About 30 miles. So it's Dad
it's not like sending him down to Wales or something.
No, not at all. Not as far as
people,
we went away to school.
People do these things, that's why as a doctor, I know a lot of families. But carry on. So, because it's only 30 miles away, you can drop in.
Yeah, exactly.
He can be brought home for occasions and.
Yeah, there's weekends where he goes back over to my mum's house. Sometimes
Mum and Dad are not together.
No,
that's getting apparently clear. This is the first time I'm mentioning it, but so there is 3 residences.
Yes, for Tom. Yeah.
The lads, his own, and mum.
Yeah.
Okay, and he circulates in these 3 homes.
He spends most of his time in his home with the staff, but obviously visits. And Dad goes up twice a week, and often I go with him.
So there's a whole rota system.
Yeah.
And your dad being the engineer, the project planner kind of person, that's easy peasy.
He'd like that title. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction.
Well, I would, not being his son. If he were my dad, I'd be just as sniffing about it and so. Okay, so where were you when it was decided, and how was it decided that now he does need more people to help him, professional people with his weight and his needs, than you can provide? There's a phone call. Hello, caller. Who's that, please?
Hello, hi. This is Sam Ella from Sports Media UK. How are you?
Hello. Say again. Who's that again?
It's Sam Ellard from Sports Media UK.
Okay, carry on, Sam.
Yes, good, cool. Hi. How are you, by the way? Good.
We are very happy here. We've got talking about wheelchairs and disabilities and so on, but carry on.
Cool. I was wondering what time you transmit our bulletins.
I am the wrong person to ask that. I'm a presenter. I'm Dr. Anand speaking. I'll give you my email address. ANANDJEE. Have you got a pen there?
Sorry. Just say that again. Say again.
ANAN, Alpha November Alpha.
ANAN.
D for David.
Yeah.
Juliet Echo Echo.
Yes.
Anand G at mikeecho.com. ANANDJEE at me.com. Just send me an email and I'll answer a question. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the call. Okay, thank you. Such is life. Yes, what were we saying?
About Tom, just before Tom went into his care. Yeah, well, I would say it's more of an opportunity than a requirement, because services like this pop up, but they get filled up very quickly because obviously there's such a high demand for it. So it wasn't a point where we thought, oh, Tom now needs more support. There's an opportunity for him to go into this.
So it's with Tom's eyes, you're looking out for things which will do him good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because obviously he gets a degree of freedom more so at with 7 carers rather than us as his family, because obviously we have to do other things as well.
And that's all they do, and they're professionally trained and so on.
Exactly, yeah. So
and he happens to have found a good place because even the carers enjoy him.
Yeah.
And strange as it may sound.
And enjoyed Dad's joke. No, they don't
I can see the smile on his face. He does understand irony and sarcasm extremely well. More than most Americans would, Honestly, he does. I mean, just look at the look on his eyes.
Can I just ask? I think is there somebody else in a wheelchair there as well?
Yes.
In the house.
So there are 2 people.
Yeah, Tom's housemate Stephen.
Yeah. He's welcome to come as well.
Well, you'll have to ask Hanna.
No, seriously. I mean, I like working with people who are different. I don't like the same boring. I can have 2 Indian Hindu doctors talking about medicine and getting bored to tears and dying very quickly. No, I didn't do that. I like different. Pardon me? What did he say?
Tom said that Stephen's at the day centre today.
Okay, yes, but we can find a day. Hanna knows. Hanna, we are here Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But Thursday is the best day because Mastermind Steve is there. Magnus Magnusson himself.
Don't know about that.
Yes. So you were saying that I think in a sense your whole family is very Buddhist in attitude. You accept what is and see what you can do best.
Exactly,
You don't say, oh dear, why has it happened to me?
Yeah.
Oh, I must have done, like the Hindus would say, oh, you must have done something bad in your, like Glenn Hoddle kind of.
Exactly, yeah, it's not.
Glenn, you're famous on a show, Well, as a Hindu, I have to say it.
Yeah.
Take what you will from it. Happy Diwali, Glenn Hoddle.
I think in that, I guess there were times in my earlier life where I thought, why me? But I think
we all do that.
Yeah, but I think when you get older, effectively I'm making my living out of now what I've learned and trying to help other people.
Yes. So it's a double whammy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're helping and you're making dosh.
Yes, not as much dosh as I would like to make, but that's the nature of everything. But but I think
it's contentment you have, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
And that's a very Buddhist. You see, the Buddhist main thing I've learned from Buddhists. By the way, Buddha attained his wisdom 60 miles from where I was born. In Bodh Gaya, and I'm from Hazaribagh. He said, expectation creates pain. Just expectation. Why is he in a wheelchair? Well, he is. Just accept and move on. What's the book you've given me?
Sumo.
What does sumo stand for?
Shut up and move on. Don't dwell on the.
Look how he talks to me, man.
Don't dwell on the sort of the miseries of life.
Yes.
Put it behind you. You've experienced it. It's useful experience to learn from your errors. And
if you're not learning, you're a dumbo.
You then move on and build on it and don't do it again.
Okay.
Well,
so we'll have
every challenge as an opportunity.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's time for a break and then we'll chat on after that.
It's Red Hot Radio. Spice FM 98.8 FM.
How many times would you all have heard this song? Seriously. Without being flippant.
At least 4 digits.
In thousands.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thousands.
Itsy spider crawled in the mama's bed. Crawled up.
Like Heineken Lager, it reaches those parts the other songs don't, isn't it?
Mama laid there sleeping while hubby laid there dead. And the itsy bitsy spider crawled out of mama's bed.
Oh my God.
Itsy bitsy
Spider. Nah. Oh, you can't hear it.
was forlorn.
Put on headphones.
Didn't know what to do.
I'll run it again.
Tried to go for help, but
Okay, it starts again. You're gonna all sing with headphones on. Otherwise, you can't hear it.
All the tunes are available. Could you not influence them to like something different?
This band is also available in white.
Yes. He likes all the other tracks, but
the itsy bitsy
Go on, sing.
spider crawled up the water spout. Down came the rain, and watch the spider out.
We do
Out
meditation
in the
on-
sun.
Yes.
Spider when the spouter came. Itsy bitsy spider crawled in from the sun, crept into the crib, found the baby bun. The baby kept a crying till mama's work was done. And the itsy bitsy spider crawled back out in the sun. Itsy bitsy spider crawled in the mama's bed, crawled upon her hubby.
I remember this song from when I was, well, variations of it when you were original nursery rhyme, but didn't know this funky jazz sort of style.
Spider crawled out of mama's bed.
Me, once. That's enough.
That was enough.
Itsy bitsy spider crawled out of mama's shoes. Mama was forlorn and didn't know what to do.
The most satisfying part of
Knocked over hell, but her foot was turning blue. And the itsy bitsy spider
if you can't beat them, join them.
crawled out of mama's
Why not?
You done?
You'll have to bear in the 58, 56, 55. That's a very different kind of good I was expecting. So tell
You
me,
missed the knot on the end.
we were talking about music in particular. We were talking about music in particular, and my button was off, so I was sounding like I'm in a toilet, whatever toilet it was. So, you know, music has at least a neuro-associative state. If you made him happy at that time, every time he hears that, the whole hormones and all will set in. Smells are the same thing. If I hear the cooing of the cuckoo bird in India, coo, coo, straight away it's Indian summers, mangoes, and the whole buzzing bees and everything. These are neuro-associative states. And why not? Equally, the opposite is there is a chap called Deepak Chopra. He's a very famous mind-body connector from California, of course, born in India. And he took people who were vomiting with chemotherapy, and he took them to a different hospital, gave them the same chemotherapy, but the nurses looked different, and they didn't vomit. Take them back, it starts off. When I go to my Catholic school in Patna, and the last time I went was in '64 as a student, and then I went 20 years later, I still feel sickly as soon as I smell the cigar of the priests.
Yeah.
The association is very strong.
Association, yes.
But it's how to break these associative states, because it's no different from disliking someone in a wheelchair because you had one bad do, or liking them or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do we change these associations? Hypnotherapy is a very powerful way. Otherwise, you can keep trying. You say, I'm trying
Well,
to like...
you've got to. I mean, I think the thing about hypnotherapy, the little bit I know about it, is you've got to remove that first before you then plant something else.
Yes.
Because if you're talking about a place that you go to, you've got to get rid of that negative about it and put something pleasant in there, and then that's the thing that will
that is what will stick.
That replaces, yes.
Yes.
Then you've got a different. If you've
Take
got
on
a different
it.
hook on the
Yes, exactly.
on the place, but that's not easy to do. I think you brought in a relevant point up there about a wheelchair. If you can get, what I've always wanted to do is get more and more people spending a little bit of time in a wheelchair.
Just sit and see.
It's just sitting, just sit in it.
Just 10 minutes.
There's another book I'll bring in next week written by a lady in Australia
Called?
who I met.
Another lady with a book.
Another lady with a book. Well, that was a gentleman with a book. The previous one, the Subo. That's Paul McGee.
Paul McGee, the famous hypnotherapist.
No.
Not McGee from...
It's probably not called Paul McGee now that I've said it's Paul McGee, because it's something McGee. Anyway, this lady, Gail, wrote this book because she sat in her mother's wheelchair. And instantly the attitudes were different.
Yeah, that's like I was saying with the
she's
plaster
written
on.
a program, and we've got there's a school board here. She's written a teacher's guide to using exercises that can help kids understand what life's like. But for me, the best thing you can do is sit in a wheelchair.
Yes.
And
you don't need to be told; you'll feel it.
You just feel it, yeah.
Well, Steve's actually right. I mean, I've sat in in those dark days, I was sat in Tom's chair to try and get a perspective. You close off, you try and close off your mind to what you would normally think of doing, and it's very hard. But just try and restrict yourself in the way that Tom is obligated to be restricted. Difficult.
It's a different world.
It's absolutely a different world.
Mm.
You have to learn the language all over again. It's a different perspective. And just sitting, Steve and I talked about just sitting in a wheelchair and having people look at you is something different. I mean, if I know I go, and I haven't done this, now you prompted me, just might go into a network meeting in a wheelchair and just see how
it feels.
People treat me. And I know they will, but they don't mean to. This is not being unpleasant or aggressive. It's how do I
They're just
deal with
ignorant.
that? Yeah.
They're just ignorant.
Well, yes, it's the fear of, do I say the right or wrong thing? Hello, how are you? Oh, I've said the wrong thing. You're not well because you're in a wheelchair. Yeah, we have those worries. Instead of just being normal, laid back, and just communicate.
But also from the other side, I'm not talking about wheelchairs now, I'm talking about, say, someone's bereaved. And I keep quoting this example. There was a patient who was 80, so he was in a wheelchair. His wife was about 72. He had died that morning. And she was not my patient, he was. But she was wearing a bright red coat on a lovely winter's day. And she was in Halifax taking some money out. I said, "Hello, Rose, how are you?" The name, of course, is fake. She said, "Have you not heard John has died?" I said, "Never mind that. How are you? You look well." So I was embedding her wellness rather than, "Oh dear." Yeah. And the worst thing you can do with somebody in pain, with bereavement, is give them a big hug. You're anchoring the pain in them. Yeah. Next time, every time they see you, they feel pain.
Difficult for us not to.
It's very difficult because culturally it's the wrong thing to do, to be happy. But I'm there to promote happiness, not to make miserable people more miserable.
But then you'll be accused of being uncaring.
I am.
Thoughtful.
I'm so caring that I need to appear caring. A lot of people appear caring. I mean, I'll demonstrate it to you. Okay, watch this. I'll give you a birthday card and you say you shouldn't have. Happy birthday.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
Fine. Now he'll remember every time I give him something is to appreciate, because this culture is so soft-hearted that it hurts, Really, the British English culture is very soft, but the times have changed. Gay means something different today. And if you say you shouldn't have, I am as an Indian saying, "Why the hell shouldn't I have? I like you. Here's a card."
Have any of you heard of a campaign that Scope did earlier this year called "End the Awkward"?
Yes, I heard.
You heard, but it's not widely out there. They've spent money, and it was a good thing to try and attempt to do, because it is people feeling awkward when they're with somebody that's disability. One of the classics is I remember from the bits that I saw is, if you're standing up and talking to Tom and I, do you come down to our level, or should you stand
it's
up?
It's not coming down to your level, it's matching.
Getting on a face-to-face. But it's people, it's that sort of thing that people don't know whether that's the right thing to do. But for me...
What do you think? I mean, when I teach in McDonald's, I'll say you try to match the customer. You're talking to a little child. Old people get on their knees and talk to the child instead of towering over them.
It's interesting you're talking about this curry club.
Yes, tonight. I hope you can come.
Oh, yes, yeah. But it's one of the things about going to a network. And is it a sit-down network, or is it a stand-up and mingle around network? Now, to me, they're different things, because if I'm in a one where people are standing and mingling around, which I still go to, because... But
you're also a tutor. You're teaching them to come down to your level.
Well, whatever.
And metaphorically, to come up to your level.
But it's whether people can ask... What would you like me to do? Do you want me to come down to your level, or do you want me to stand up? And it's being able to ask.
Okay. What if you were not in a wheelchair and I was, and you keep talking to me and I say, "Would like to sit down?" If there is a chair there, obviously, would you find that embarrassing?
No. But I think everybody's different. This is one of the big problems, is that
what will they say? Will they see you as very arrogant that you want them at your level?
One of the things I do when I've done training, the training program I haven't run much this year since I'm getting back to health, but I'll get back to doing it. I called it appreciating life with disability rather than disability awareness training. It's disability appreciation, because there's a big difference. Awareness is making you aware of all things about disability, and that's it.
Appreciation means you have a feeling about it, you have an ownership. So you overcome your prejudice.
Yeah,
prejudice is what happens before you discriminate. Yes. So a lot of people are prejudiced, but they don't discriminate. So they tolerate foreigners, they tolerate disabled people, they tolerate lesbians.
Away from it.
Yeah. So on the surface, but inside they're burning. And the biggest issue is, suppose you didn't like Asians, God forbid. and you'll be polite to me, but you're suffering that schism in your heart.
Yeah.
And if your neighbor was an Asian and you got on fine and they fed you with lots of curries, then you'll say, hey, how are you? Like normal. Because you can make it out in the eyes, you know.
Yes.
You go to a counter.
We have Asians next door to where I live, and they're lovely people. And you know, you're right, when they had Ramadan finished, they had a barbecue in the garden and the smells were wafting through, and I thought, I want to be there. And
so what did you put, a hand over the fence? And they handed you a piece of...
because they're lovely, kind people, and they actually brought some stuff through. And I'd already had my tea, but I couldn't resist the,
I think
the burgers and the whatever else.
One of my friends says to the Indian, she's Indian also, she teaches English though, and she tells the parents, let your children watch the nice Bollywood movies, because they're like Shakespeare and Pride and Prejudice. Because Indian films talk about stories that were in England 500 years ago.
Yep.
And things have moved on too fast here, and you've lost touch with things like jealousy. They're too polished on the surface, you know. If people do get jealous, people do get afraid, people do get threatened, people do have honor. These value-based things don't come out in movies, you know.
But I think that's what messes up the thing you said right at the beginning of the program about countries getting on with each other. It's all right when... and I guess it's going back to a bit of the communism day. If we're getting stuff off China and China's getting stuff off us, we're mates. But then somebody wants to get that little bit more, and that's when things like jealousy come into play.
But it's like falling in love. You negotiate, isn't it? And you don't bend till you snap. You just give a little and say, excuse me. That's as far as it goes. I cannot lose all my friends just to please you. From whichever side it comes. I've seen this a lot in couples. They become so afraid and isolated and lose their own ness, and they become somebody else's mate, that they lose who they are.
That happens a lot with younger people, doesn't it? I mean, I go back to when I remember, you went out with a girl and you didn't go, you had to see them every night, and you missed out with your mates, and then something might go wrong, because it happens when you're teens. It doesn't always end up in marriage when you're in your teens, and then you've got to go back, and it's difficult to go back when you haven't been seeing them.
Where the hell have you been like?
What?
Somebody will say, where the hell have you been like?
This is untrue.
Just going back one step to awkwardness, because in one of the other very basic things...
Come closer to the mic, it's just a bit too far.
One of the basic things, besides we're talking about doing personal care,
yes,
is just something about eating. Now, up to the point where Tom had his own wheelchair and that independence, when we would take Tom out to a restaurant, Tom would always sit on my knee and I would feed him. Now, in various restaurants across the world, we have been accepted doing that in a range of different ways. And it's not because I have a problem, and not because Tom didn't want to sit on
the restaurant is a problem.
People had it, they felt uncomfortable.
Why?
Well, you have to ask them.
Well,
because why was a teenager...
As long as a woman is not totally titillating me by breastfeeding...
Right. Then everything
else like goes. The words?
Yes, I was listening.
Then if she's covered and feeding the baby, it doesn't bother me. I shouldn't bother anyone. But a lot of people do get bothered. Never mind everybody. In South Shields, where I did my gynecology, the matron was a dried up prune. She cleared constipation and everybody. And she would say, oh, well, Lalesh is a French group that encourages breastfeeding. But, there's nothing wrong with the bottle. And I said, sister, why are you saying all this rubbish? Are you not married? She said, what do you mean? I said, have you got children? She said, no. I said, how are you a midwife? Fact of life. I've actually said this to her. I said, how are you a midwife? And you're not encouraging. I know it's very convenient to hand out little bottles at 1 minute past 12. And breastfeeding is messy and very attractive to blokes in particular. So what is your problem?
Yes.
And this is where the cookie crumbles, isn't it? This is the absolute God truth.
And that's the same thing we're talking about being in a wheelchair. You've got to experience it. You've got to have the feelings that go with it.
But these are family rules that all of us have grown up with. I'll give you my own personal example. I lost a son, Sharad. But long before, when he was only 4, he dropped some. We bought a new house, which was the best house, the rottenest house in the best street, Elmfield Road. Okay, the windows were bent, so it was so cold. All that stuff. He dropped some coke and he looked up at me as if I was going to shout at him. And I felt so ashamed of my own past behavior. I said, I'll see you in half an hour. Went to near the old police station on Pilgrim Street. The electricity board was there, and bought a wax machine. They'd just come out where you could wash.
Oh, yes.
And I said, there, now spill as much coke as you like. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, my mother probably, less my father, said, oh, when you broke a plate, because her mother shouted when she broke a plate,
And that's
because
the
her mother
generations. Yep.
broke the clay pot when the caveman came in. So we are stuck in family rules.
Yes.
How the hell does it matter if a child drops a bit ketchup on the...
It doesn't.
It just doesn't, you know. I met parents who make the child feel so afraid of eating ice cream in case it gets on the clothes. Well, there's a washing machine, for God's sakes. But they're so embarrassed.
Well, I'm going to confess that I dropped a pallet of black acrylic paint on the nice carpet in our house.
No, that takes...
Last week.
Somebody else's carpet.
My carpet, our house carpet.
So what did the missus say? Like,
She was very gentle because I'd already started to try and rub it off. It's now a slightly grey colour, but she accepted, and we try our best. Like you say, there's various chemicals and things you can stick on it, but it's initial fear of thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done here?" You know.
I think all parents at some stage have gone through that situation where you wake up to how you're behaving, whatever instance that might be, and think, why am I doing that? You do feel ashamed, and that's the wake up call. It's like when you step back and you become a better parent.
So you look inside you.
Yeah, why have I been doing that? For whatever reason, whether you're too tired, whatever the reason, take that step.
You go back to your basic behavior, your default character.
And it was interesting you asked Rod the question earlier on, is what's his first memories of life, irrespective of how much Tom was in it. But somewhere, possibly in the subconscious, there are things that went on at a very early age.
Children pick up things from zero.
It affects you later in life, and you don't realise that it's something that went on.
So you're a
early
victim
days.
of your very early indoctrination. And I'm not talking about going to faith schools. You're indoctrinated from the moment you're born.
Yes.
The parents tell me, my child is...
Stuff. You're learning stuff from the off. So
from inside the womb, you know.
It's like just listen to that music that Tom got ingrained with 12 years ago.
Yes.
If you're a 2-year-old and you're hearing a song that's repeating all the time,
well, I've often said
you're likely to know that song going onwards.
Well, in a lot of shows, people ask about my faith because I was born in a Hindu household. I went to a Catholic, then a Christian school, St. Stephen's, even in college. I worked with a Jewish guy. I've got lots of Muslim friends. So she asked me, what are you? I said, look, the one answer is all these things. But if I'm in the mosque, I'm as Muslim as you are. You may be trapped in one culture and one religion. I'm not. If I go to the church, I get tears in my eyes watching people pray. There's nothing in the statue of Virgin Mary, just made of plastic and porcelain. There's nothing holy about it, but it's what we put inside it and the people getting together.
Well, what I think what you said encompasses many of the problems we have today because we put ourselves in a silo, whether it's a religious silo, whether it's a political silo, whether it's a societal one, a class one. We do.
Geographical one.
But as soon as we do that, we then have envy. We then have hate, all of those things, instead of just accepting what there is around and getting on, promoting something wider than just ourselves. But again, as Robin was saying, it's human nature. We itself becomes important. We have to grow up and consider the person next to us. And when you have a family member that has needs, then that does significantly shape your outlook, and even yourself, where you've lost somebody. So it does. It has such an effect. But if you could distill that, and my concern are the young people today, the people that are 10, 11, 12, how are they going to think about people with disabilities of their own generation? I have no answer to that one.
Well, I think this is evolution, and I think they're the ones that are they're getting two responses to that. They're going to a school possibly where there are other disabled kids, and whether they're in wheelchairs or walking or have hearing impairments or various combinations at school. They're integrating perfectly well because it's just like you talk with Rod and Tom, is that it's normal life you're getting on. And I think what when they get home and they're being looked after by the grandparents, which are 2 generations or even longer than that back, they are still stuck with the old ideas. So that when
but then you have to face grandma and say, Grandma, you can't call my friend the chinky even behind her back. I've seen parents say that.
You're not going to do that if you're 12.
No. But then you have to stand up for your child and say, he's right, Mum. You can't talk like that anymore. The colored guy, the chinky, the paki, the loose woman, behind children's backs we talk like that, but that becomes common theme.
Yes, it does.
And children pick up so much from very tiny age. They pick up the vibes,
Yes. Well, you see kids swearing, don't you? I mean, it was, their parents are using swear words to each other, and the kids are saying it.
My surgery began at 4 to 6 once upon a time in 1984. I went to see a child at 3:30 and I said, hey man, why didn't you ring in the morning? His earache has been there for 2 days. And she said, sorry. I said, okay, don't wake him up. I'll just look in his ear with an otoscope. I put in, and the child, the first word was beginning with F and the second was off. This is a 3-year-old child. And she was so embarrassed. I said, why are you embarrassed? He doesn't read the dictionary at night. He just copies you. So I face it. I'm not scared to say, I don't get embarrassed. It's your child who's being rude and you're the rude person coming out of the child's mouth. So I don't take ownership of their bad behavior. The other people say, oh dear, oh dear. No. And if there's smell, people are very scared. People are very scared of the truth.
Yes.
We are not scared of lies. We are very happy to be lies. Okay, time for a break, thankfully. And then
Robin.
Then Robin, indeed.
Then Robin.
Spice FM, to entertain, educate and enlighten. Text us on 80039 or email us at studio@spicefm.co.uk.
Hi, welcome back. We're talking to Tom and we've got a Robin in the chair. Hi, Robin. I last met you in near Tynemouth, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
At the Long Sands, it's called. Come nearer the mic. Come closer, Kiss it. It's all right. Okay. Come even closer. Otherwise, we won't hear what you're saying. You've been in the care work. You've been in the care work for a long time, I take it. Is this a different job for you?
Well, I've had various jobs in my time.
Like what? Give us some rough idea. What's your first job you did? When you were a 16-year-old, I guess.
Apprentice plumber.
Apprentice plumber.
Heating engineer now.
You're apprentice plumber and now a heating engineer.
No, I was. It's a modern day term now, a heating engineer.
Oh, now they're called heating engineers, like window engineers.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I did a stint down the mines.
Wow, where? Which mine?
In Northumberland near Whittlepit.
Whittlepit.
It's a mine.
Up
in
near Ashington?
No, near Hamper.
Okay.
And then I went to Ellington after that.
Ellington, yes. It's all Northumbria kind of way.
Yeah. And then I did a few other various jobs of working with like a taxi driver.
Wow.
School bus.
I need your telephone number. I have to interview you for full 2 hours one day. No, fascinating. Your career is amazing. From being a heating engineer to a miner to a taxi driver.
And then I did a stint in the bakery. So I was working as a baker.
Is there any job you haven't done like?
Not many.
Okay, and then bakery where?
He's
which
been
one?
a doctor as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the easy one. He doesn't mention out of shame.
That's just a doctor of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where were you a baker? Which bakery?
It was in Rothbury, like a little village up in Northumberland.
I know, man. I've lived 6 months in Rothbury. Seriously.
Yeah.
I used to have a motorbike once. I was young once, you know.
All right.
Every Saturday there was a huge queue of motorbikers.
You'd never change.
No. Yeah, I had a big Honda. But carry on.
Yeah.
So bakery in Rothbury.
Yeah, and then there was a vacancy came open for like care work.
How do you go from a bakery to a care work? I mean, it's a completely different kind of job.
I have a handicapped son myself.
But handicap, so you show your age a bit. So how old is he?
He's 25 now.
Okay, so it's quite similar to our Tom, age-wise.
Oh yes, yeah.
And he's also in a wheelchair?
No, he's...
So what's his disability?
He's Down syndrome.
Downs?
Okay.
Yeah. But you understand the concept of shame, of other people treating you differently?
All about that.
Yeah. You sense it exactly like Phil has.
Yeah.
So there's no difference whether you're a miner, a baker, a butcher, a candlestick maker, or Phil who's got a slightly posher accent and bad jokes.
Yeah.
But you feel exactly the same feelings. Or you are subjected to exactly from society.
Well, I've seen it.
You know it from within?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seriously? Okay. So how has society treated you in with a disabled child? How is it when you go without him in public? How is it when you go with him in public?
Yeah, actually.
What's his name, by the way?
David.
David. How is it with David and without? How we treat you?
To be honest with you, I don't notice it.
Okay. You gone past that stage.
I don't.
How did you feel in the beginning when you went with a child who looked slightly Chinese, different, and you couldn't make out that he was Downs or Others would sort of think you
Well,
have.
obviously you would look, and you
People-
try
people-
to, yeah.
people would
People
look.
stare.
Yes,
Does
you
kids
can't.
stare?
Yeah.
Well, there's a song,
I found
people
it to-
stop and stare, they don't bother me, and so on.
Another pint, please.
Okay, I have often walked down this. I saw My Fair Lady about 8 times in Delhi.
Is it not? Is it?
in Delhi.
Yeah, in Delhi, yes. Pygmalion, My Fair Lady, isn't it? Yes,
Not
please.
on telly, in Delhi.
In Delhi,
I
Delhi.
said in Delhi, not
Delhi,
in
not on telly. No, no, no. That is very, very good. Okay, so, but you've sensed all that in the past, but you can't past it. You can't be
yes,
bothered if somebody
well,
stares at
yeah.
your child
You haven't got time really.
to waste on
Yeah,
time wasters.
Yeah.
Has society changed?
I'm not too sure about that because I don't stop and stare at what other people are doing. I like to trying to keep in focus of what's happening within you all.
Right. It's like a racing driver. You have to see where
you
your
don't-
car is
you
going.
don't-
You can't be bothered, oh, what's he
Like, you're
doing,
not
what's he
gonna look-
wearing.
You're not going to look at the countryside when you're doing 170 miles an hour.
He's a pretty good presenter, like. If you're going 170 miles an hour, you're not looking left and right for the farmer or the cow. You know, you're going 170 miles an
It's going
hour.
to come off worse, whatever it is.
Yes, yes. Wow. Okay. And do you think you get enough support from society?
I think nowadays you do, yes.
So when do you think it started changing, and who made that big change?
In what? How do you mean?
What made it
change?
possible for you to have more money, more emotional, physical, social support, disabled toilets, or whatever he might need it? He doesn't need disabled toilets, no? David?
No.
So what does he need in public? Nothing much, except he needs road safety.
I think it's more aspects on well, again, you know, the word disabled is the wheelchair user. You know, they are. I think they are like sort of discriminated against
Because it's so visible and in your
Yes.
face.
Well, it's not so much. It's how do they? You know, how can if they are having problems helping themselves? You know, how what
Should society do?
Help?
Yes,
to do?
yes.
It's,
Or help the
it's,
carers, caring for the carers.
You were talking about going in with disabled toilet.
Yes,
before.
yes.
Now, fair enough. With Tom, yes, he needs full-on care. You know, or physical help. But
Steve
over there, I've noticed your top half is quite. You know, you're quite.
Yes,
used to
yeah,
it,
that's the thing.
On his legs given the
Yes,
issue.
it's
I was
only
calling
that,
over body
now,
strength.
if you
Below
go-
me, waist is
Yeah.
waste of time.
But if you go into a disabled toilet, how do you? Is there enough space for you to turn the chair around for you to close the door?
Well, it's an interesting point you're making because the thing that always concerns me about places they've got a wheelchair accessible toilet or disabled or whatever they call it. I always like to get the different names they all call them.
Yeah.
But there is it's not the same for everybody. You know that they put in the. I mean, you, I don't know whether you need a transfer area for Tom. That's always the biggest problem you have. And, you know, you ideally want at least the equal space next to the toilet. You might want to transfer on. I think, and I don't know whether that's, whether you need to do that sometimes.
So on one side of the toilet
one side,
seat,
yeah.
you need what, 2 meters, 3 meters?
Well, you want as much space as you can. I mean,
How much can you manage on your own?
I don't use that facility, but you go into toilets that have got none. You know, they'll have the equipment like the grab rails that will drop down in a foot of space. Well, and usually got a bin in it.
That takes up space.
Well, I
which is
always remove the bins.
Yes.
And in some of them.
All
it's
right,
really
so that gets in the way as well.
But this is
And some of them have 2 bins, one for women specially to use and one the normal bin.
But the bins
male
are
bin.
meant the size to go down the narrow side. You know, the thin bins, the sanitary bins.
They should fit
they
on the
they actually
wall,
are narrow
on the
for that
wall side.
purpose. They go
Yes.
in the space.
And sometimes they
between
put it on the
toilet
side. Yes,
and
okay.
the thin wall as opposed to the big wall. But you always see them dumped in the other side. That's education.
Because education, because they don't know.
They don't know. It's
So
the
the
same.
people designed it for that, and yet because they're ignorant.
Yeah, it's the same with the kind of emergency cords. That the theory of them is that they should be dangling and touching the ground, so that if you do have a fall,
You can reach them.
You can reach them. Whereas you often see, and I don't know whether it's cleaners or whoever's thinking somebody's going to trip over that. I'll tie it up here, and you're forgetting the fact that
I haven't found one that's actually not tied up. They're all tied.
They're all tied up.
Yes, and
Yeah.
some
Otherwise, they
are
get
together.
splashed and they get dirty.
Oh,
Well, they're in the way for me as well because
Yes.
I'm
If you're in
putting
the pro-
Tom, I might accidentally put my arm around him to hold him.
And then you get
and you
the.
call it. Yeah.
So they.
So those are SOS
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's an answer to that question, which I've always tried. I've seen it in foreign countries, and it's there is to tie it all to the like with curtain hooks round the wall, and you keep it away.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in this country anywhere, and I've tried to get a few places to change it. All you need to do is lengthen the cord. It's the same connection up behind a few curtain hooks, and you fix it all the way around the wall. So it doesn't matter where you fall, not right down. You've got to be able to reach it if you are sitting on the toilet and you need help from there.
Yeah, once it reaches you, you can pull the cord, pull the cord.
If you fall on the floor, which is always a likely situation, in the if you are having to stand up and or whatever, and you need help and you're lying on the ground and the cord's tied up, you're totally stuck. Might as well not be there.
What would you do if you have a mobile phone? So you'd ring SOS anyway.
I'm not forced
You never had
in a situation to have to do it, but.
So all this technology is what I'm pointing out is helpful, isn't it? Even a mobile phone.
I take the mobile phone in the bathroom at home.
I do as well.
If
in case somebody rings me,
my wife's in the lounge, it's quite away from where the bathroom is. So if I have a problem that I need assistance, I'll phone her up.
When I went under the floorboard to put a wiring between my surgery and my home, which was the same building, there's only a foot and a half. I took my Motorola phone, which is like a brick. And I did get stuck. I didn't call the fire brigade. I just asked my sons to drop a torch so I could see where the hell I was going. So if being able-bodied, within quotation marks, you still need the mobile phone. I mean, it's like a pacemaker now.
It's an assistance for anybody. This is the thing, that it doesn't necessarily have to be, labelled with a whatever, but they need something that's going to help you.
Yes.
Well, the disabled wheelchair access loos across the country do not service people.
Come near the mic, because you're sounding very nice to me, but the listeners can't hear you.
Don't service people who are quadriplegics like Tom, because I have yet to find one, and it's simply to do with cost, that have for people that support Tom. Different for me, I just pick him up.
But I mean, till when will you pick him up? I mean, you will get weaker, he will get heavier.
My aim is to continue as long as I can.
Indeed, but you will. I mean, you will age and he will get bigger.
So I will look for this facility. So both Hannah and Robin can't use that facility for Tom because they have to use a lift. And it will be simple to build those in. No one even discusses having lifts. If you have a lift, you've got to have somewhere to put Tom down. So immediately you start talking about some added costs. But now you see Tom is restricted. He can't use those loos outside because even though they are big enough, no one can actually use them for him with his disabilities. And if you think about the percentage of people within the disabled special needs group, it's a high percentage of people like Tom. So there's no access to those loos. So when the government and when everybody talks about it, they talk about it from simplistic point of view.
From ignorant point of view.
They don't understand.
Little knowledge.
And this is coming back to the bit before about sitting in a wheelchair. I mean, that's just a tip of the iceberg, is to sit in a wheelchair if you actually have to run your life. And I think the thing that I try to do, and we'll challenge this, because I've got this thing, International Wheelchair Day, 1st of March, which is 5 months away, is having people who are in public positions spending the day doing their normal job in a wheelchair, not sitting around for 10 minutes and saying, oh yes, that's, or doing a little exercise. Get up in the morning.
Well, I'd love to have a wheelchair in the Beacon building.
Yes.
And say, can you sit in this for 5 minutes?
Somebody to spend the whole day and do what you normally try and do. I would almost deliver one. Let's say it was leader of the council,
never mind the leader
or something. Deliver them the chair.
Never mind the leader. I'll have it for the day.
Well, you'll have it, but I think we need other people. You understand the issues.
No, I'm trying to.
Yes, but I think
I'm at least talking.
You understand.
I haven't felt it.
I want to learn. You want to understand, but there are others who are in powerful positions, like politicians and council leaders and other people in senior positions of organisations, who should get a chair in the morning and start from home. Can you get into work on the bus? Do you need a special taxi? What's the metro like? What's the normal buses like?
Again,
go in and then
time.
Sorry.
So you've got to take time and
you've also got
all right.
That's right. It's going to take long.
You're cooking an idea for me. My mother, I've got her an aluminium, very lightweight folding wheelchair. So I'll film myself, as I love doing, getting in and out of the house. I'll have to bring the wheelchair down the steps. I'll get my son to film. And I'll see how difficult it is. I'm like, my mother's too old and frail.
What we can build up to next year, 1st of March, International Wheelchair Day, it's getting other people to do it and asking them to take video and talk about what it's like and get some publicity about the thing. it's we will talk in more detail about that. as we
Okay.
get nearer
So
the
that's
time,
another
but
idea that's cooking.
It's there in advance, and people can do all sorts of things. And
Yes.
it's not a money making venture for me.
No. It's just
an
making
awareness-
life
it's an
easier
awareness
for
game.
people who
It's an
have.
awareness game.
Okay, Robin, pull the mic towards yourself. Yes, you're such a good speaker. We'll have to have you say some more. So, when did you join this caring service?
About 7 years ago now.
So 7 years ago, you've been with a company that's looking after people like Tom.
Yes.
But Tom has already been there, isn't it?
Well, Tom was there, I think 6 months before I started. For this
Okay,
company.
so you were fresh to each other.
Yeah.
Did you see something in him that you wouldn't experience with David?
Just on Tom's behalf of like sort of the physical side. Of things, yeah.
Whereas David doesn't have that issue.
No, he's fully able. But,
He's fully physically able. Yes. Okay. So you started seeing things from yet a more difficult
Well,
perspective.
it was a different angle. Yeah. Yeah.
That you hadn't met before. So did it take you some time to get used to the concept that, oops, he can't do it? And your mind is saying...
No, it was just with Tom's situation, it was just learning to understand his speech.
Okay.
Whereas my own son, he cannot communicate at all. He's only like maybe...
Okay, so in the
2 or 3
speech
words.
department, you can't stop Tom.
Yes.
He just goes on and on.
Yes,
And worse still, his dad, who's allegedly able-bodied and
and
able-brained,
we can never...
though I doubt that.
Did you hear that?
We're picking on you.
We're picking on Dad,
Yeah.
Phil Pugh. You can't stop that, can you?
Say yes. Go on, say yes.
Don't
Okay.
pick on me, he said.
Okay. So basically, you pick on people you love, man. You never pick on enemies. You don't dare. You only pick on friends, don't you? You pick on people who would allow you to pick on them. Okay. So, Robin, it has been a completely different kind of job for you, though you have had some experience. So the attitudinal things in your head from the time David was born, 25 years ago, those have been, the difficulties have worn out completely. Did you know he was disabled, going to be a Down syndrome child before he was born? Through scans and things?
I got to find out that when the nurse came and put him in my arms. And
Only then? So there was no pre-blood test for Down syndrome test?
No. It was like then my ex-partner had said, she was more noticeable about his eyes, and I was in.
And then the nurse did the thyroid test and what have you.
Yeah, and then that's when it.
Okay.
That's when.
Okay, but when I did pediatrics, they would check on the mother's blood level and scans and so on. Okay. So you got a ready-made Down syndrome baby, which you weren't prepared for before the birth.
Definitely.
Have you other children?
I've got 2 others. Yeah.
Okay, exactly like this family. There are 3 of them. There's 3 of yours.
Yes.
So there's a lot of. Is your eldest child?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Oh my God, these 2 are identical sets, And the other 2 are boys.
1 boy and 1 girl.
Oh, thank God, it's slightly different. The youngest one is
Twilight Zone.
the middle one is got a beard and
She's a very
He's
good girl.
ugly.
oh, she's a
She's a very nice girl.
that's where we part company. Okay, that's it's completely different. Okay, so she wouldn't feel left out because she's a girl. Whereas man next to me, he's the middle child. He's not the eldest. He's not the youngest.
Well, my second eldest son, he used to look after David, just on similar kind of basis of Rod and Alex.
But it would be easier for him to look after because David was able-bodied and just to mind he doesn't get into the water or the fire or gas or something like that. Whereas Tom needs physical attention.
That's it. The needs are greater.
And David is at home?
Yeah.
Your David is at home?
Yeah.
Okay. But if it were like Tom, quadriplegic and not able to speak, it would be... I mean, he doesn't speak.
He wouldn't be able to be looked after at home. Otherwise, he would have to spend a lot of money on new locations of where he could actually...
Spider crawl out of mama's shoe.
So, hi, we have about 5-10 minutes more. Is there any area we haven't covered of human experience, of what it is to be in a wheelchair, what it is to be
I think it's been
stared at by the
interesting
public.
because it is. We've brought up all the points that, and it's how quickly society can change. I think it's got to change more rapidly than it is. You know, we're into this sort of. I don't like the idea of legislation. You know, forcing somebody to have to do something.
Sometimes you have to drive the point home.
Well, I don't even think that works. I think
it doesn't work.
The DDA has been around. You know, it's just over 10 years since places were legally supposed to have made access, remove barriers to make access. It's still a long way from being there, and you wonder, well, is it going to be another 50? Is it going to be another 100 before?
For instance, all public places should have disability access, but they don't.
They don't. The thing that you have is this. Sometimes they do it, and then they take their eye off the ball and make it inaccessible. I mean, I've seen you know, the Civic Centre at Newcastle is where they'll have access and stuff like that, and then they'll put a skip on top of the ramp. You know, well, you know, they're not thinking when they're putting that down. Oh, the reason why that's got a dropped curb there is because somebody in a wheelchair or a mother with a pushchair might want to get in via that route. Let's dump a skip there, and they put the
small things. So temporary, it's a very big difficulty.
This is why, you know, we talked a few minutes ago about the whether you're spending time in a wheelchair or whether you're making yourself partially sighted for a while, or totally, you know, putting a blindfold on and doing things, or whether you're blocking to get an experience of what it's like to be disabled, let's use that word in that sense, for a period of time. It's totally different, and you more appreciate and get the feeling in the heart. You've got to feel it in the heart, I think, to before you really
in your innards, in your bones, in your
It's no good just sort of watching a film of somebody and
they say I'm fully trained now.
What it's like. You've got to slightly experience it, and I think there's a lot of scope for doing more of that right the way through. Because I think if you can get older people who are, you know, talking earlier on about people unwilling to be in a wheelchair for the
there's some reason.
If you can get them to do it, you know, one of the things that they always say about if you're going to try and go in a wheelchair is go to a place where you're not normally there. I think your fear is you're going to go down Northumberland Street and somebody will say that you know and say, oh, you know,
what are you doing in a wheelchair for? What's happened?
Whereas if you
have you had an accident? Or?
Well, that's it. You know, whereas if you say you went down to Sunderland or Middlesbrough.
No, not Sunderland. Come on.
Well, but just because you can get there in the metro, that's why I said something. So if you know, you go down somewhere like that, and then people don't know you, you know, and you don't want to know them if you go down to Sunderland, obviously, and you want to come back fairly quickly. But it's putting you in an environment where people aren't going to know you, and I think that's a lot of the fear, is that somebody will see somebody and say, "Oh, what's happening here?" You know, and they'll treat you differently. You know, somebody that normally.
But it also needs brave vigilantes like you, or people who break the border.
I'm trying to bring up. I've just put a thing on LinkedIn just yesterday. I have a thing called Wheelchair Wednesday.
Wheelchair
Wednesday, and I'm up to Wheelchair Wednesday 6. And what I tried to do yesterday is I'm still trying to identify how many wheelchairs there are in the world, because there are lots. But if we all know who each other is, we can all help each other. The thing that you were talking about before, Phil, about if you're going off, you know where the places where you take Tom locally. But if you go off down south, Cornwall or wherever, you don't know what to do. So you're going looking around and you're trying to find information. The information's not there. But somebody that lives down there knows where the place is to go. Now, if you can communicate with that person, and vice versa. If somebody's coming up here and they know that they're similar traits and issues that Tom has, or similar to myself, which, as we understand, they're different, totally different. But somebody says, well, I'm similar to Steve, I'm similar to Tom. And you can then communicate and say, well, tell me about it. Not just writing words down. But this is the thing we've talked about.
Experience it.
You know, and you say, well, I'm coming up there, tell me a good restaurant or a pub or whatever I can go to.
Just normal day-to-day living, which people are missing out on.
And because all people that are dealing with the issues that we both face, we know about what it's like. You know, so you know, in the description you made earlier on, if somebody wants to go to they'll say, oh, I'm looking for a toilet where I've got to get changed, or I've got to sit on the floor, or whatever, or it's a good clean one, because there must be
like rating, like
well, it isn't that. It's more about
Lonely Planet, like.
Well, yes and no. You need to. I think it's people communication.
With each other.
It's to know who in that area knows.
Like telling what's a good pub.
Yeah, but it's not just because I think the problem with the online stuff where the information becomes out of date,
and the person may have a very strong personal bias, and that might be the only entry.
So what we really want to do is to say, I'm going up to Newcastle. I want to find all the people in Newcastle that are, and it becomes a bit of a Facebooky sharing because we're all out to help each other. You would like to think
that's the only motive.
We've got intentions to try and make our lives easier, and I think if we can group together like that, and it'll take a long time to get everybody there, but if we can find people in each area and say, well, get other people in your area to get involved in it. We want to produce information about your area. You're the best people to tell us. But we don't want you to do reviews of places or
make it formal.
You might want to do that. We want to say.
Well, what you don't want is something that says the food is good or not. What you want are the facilities.
Well, that's it.
That's really what
that's always the problem with the first thing I'll ask is somebody will say, "Oh, you've got to go to this restaurant. It's fantastic." Question one: can I get in?
Yeah.
Can I go to the toilet when I get in there? Those are the two most important questions.
And for me, when I go in, and Rod will probably support this. One of the early things that I will do is maybe I will let Tom be pushed in by one of his brothers or whoever. I'll go and I'll check the loos out first.
Absolutely.
Because what I won't do is I won't take him for a meal and
then know what they have to do with the bladder problem.
If I'm going to go, I want him to go to the loo.
Yes.
What I won't do is just leave him sitting there in his pad
and stuck in wet.
Yeah, and I'd rather walk out the restaurant, find one where I can.
Yes.
So it becomes important.
And because what you sometimes find is you'll look on a website or ring the place up. Oh yes, we've got a wheelchair toilet, and then you go. And lo and behold, in there is it's storing chairs or I've seen a satellite dish in one. One place.
Strange though it may seem, one of the various things that excite us, one of the things that really pleases me is when I find a restaurant that's nice, where it's got a great view, and I can get Tom in because he's got a loo that I can take him. I feel so happy that I can do that.
Well, you can then focus on enjoying the meal,
and
that's what it's about. You're not sort of stressed and saying, "Well, I haven't been to look at that toilet," and while the sale have got one.
Yeah.
It's only when you then go and you think, "Oh my God, look at the size of this thing!" The door doesn't. The door opens inwards, so when you get in, you can't shut the door. They don't think of these things.
Or the floor is covered.
We're coming to the end of the show, and Rod, who's sitting back like a lightning conductor, Rod, would you tell us what your final feelings are on this show? We'll do more shows anyway.
Final feelings?
Yeah, but what did we not cover? Did we cover? Did we do well? Did we do badly? Anything? No,
I think we've covered. Well, we set out in the first instance, the show was supposed to be about talking about how society views and deals with people, for want of a better word, in situations like Tom and Steve, and we've spoken about the issues surrounding that.
Okay, and so you're pretty happy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Type of disability,
that's right.
Disabled people, so you stay disabled.
For me, you're everybody, and perhaps yourself as well, is you're going in and out of disability for various circumstances.
Well, people are disabled with fear when they start speaking in public or singing a song in public.
Absolutely, yes.
That's a disability.
It's disabled from what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. So when I'm trying to walk, and Tom will be the same as this, we cannot do it. We're disabled in terms of walking, but we're getting our wheelchairs. Wow. We're given freedom to get out and about. We'll become not disabled at that point in time. We're sitting here talking now.
And would you say, which do you think has worked better? The technology of how wheelchairs work, or the people's attitude, or the terminology of how you're labelled?
Well, I think one of the problems I'm finding in trying to get more people to use wheelchairs, I'm trying to find out how many wheelchairs are there in the world, and all I can find is people doing estimates and based on ratios of all sorts of things. But the estimate from the World Health Organization is that there's somewhere around about 70 million people need a wheelchair in the world, and only as few as 5 to 15% can get a wheelchair. Now, there's a lot of people, particularly older ones, I find, that would benefit from getting out and about in a wheelchair because they're unable to walk for various mobility reasons, arthritis, or the list, Doc, of all the sort of things that would stop somebody that's getting older from walking out and about. If they got in a wheelchair, they get out in the fresh air, and that helps to make you healthier, I think. But there's this stigma attached with these labels that many of the older generation remember from my time and before is how you labelled somebody that was
slightly out of
was
your
not,
comfort zone,
not the norm. In
well, if you have,
whatever the words are.
in the UK, if you have red hair, if you got brown skin, or wear different kinds of clothes,
like
or have a stutter or a stammer. I mean, the wheelchair is the most obvious thing, like a hijab or something.
Yes.
It's so visible, so you can see it from half a mile away, or
right.
at least 200 yards away. So that kind of thing sticks in your head. But someone is stammering, they were treated badly. People who are deaf, they're called thick. Older people are deaf and thick. They're not, man. I'm 68. I'm neither deaf. Well, I'm a bit thick, but I'm not deaf.
Well, even calling yourself old. Do you feel old? You don't.
I don't
you
bloody
don't
feel old.
Well, you don't.
No,
You're dressed
I don't behave.
A
I'm
very
dressed like
small
what?
shirt. We need to put the camera on there. Where the program has been produced today by Rupert the Bear. Yeah, that
the bears are brown. I'm brown. But it's a perception thing, you know. People talk about racism. I am more racist to the police than they are to me. When the police stop me, they'll say, and what were you doing with your phone? I said, I was not doing this. No, what were you doing? I said, actually, I was videoing. Why? I said, sorry, the weather is so good, I thought I'd video and send. The car is parked. I'll say the wheelchair champion of disability, Steve. It makes sense.
Yes.
But otherwise, if say you were filming something, I said, my friend Steve is filming. Or, you know, the disabled guy within brackets with 4 wheels, that is an add-on.
Mm-hmm. No, it's Steve who goes around in a wheelchair as opposed to
but that's only when
Steve Wilkinson.
Even the wheelchair, if it's relevant to the conversation.
Yes.
If they say he'll have to come upstairs, is the first floor. I said, do you have disability access?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just say, I have nothing against women. Why have I said that? Because I have something against women. Why have I mentioned the topic of women when you're not discussing women?
No.
Isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it's and I think the problem is, you know, this is where we're talking about the generations. It goes back to with people living longer now. You know, old people like yourself who are young at heart.
Dead by now.
Well, you would have been many years ago, wouldn't you? You would have been well past.
At Shakespeare's time, they died at the age of 48
That's
49.
right.
That was a life expectancy. Thank God for that. They were married for life, but because died before they had divorced. You know? They never got a effing chance, you know.
But you'll know yourself from research that's going on now that they reckon that you know more than 50% of people that are born now are gonna live till 100.
My
so
God.
What you've got is and the existing generations are getting the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
They're still thinking like they did when they were younger. So these sort of stigmas and attitudes to disability and all of the other things you talk about, race, is going to be stuck there. And it's going to be
the days of conquering other races, whoever did it, whether it was a white man, green man, pink man, Muslim man, Turkish man, Mughal man, Genghis Khan, it doesn't matter. Those days are gone. China is no threat to India. Do you know why? It needs to sell its iPhones. You know, but in the commercial world, I mean, a vacuum Dyson is manufactured in China. So how can they attack England? Not that they can, it's too far away. But the whole world is now connecting in a very happy way, that we are connecting in a more positive, collaborative way, because we have to collaborate. What do you say? I mean, you're a budding and at the point of manufacturing things. If you turn the mic towards yourself. If you had Phil to manufacture your items in China, how can you feel badly towards them?
You can't.
Because they're part of you.
They're an extension to your family.
Yes.
So, yeah, a global market hasn't, but hopefully will bring us all closer together.
It is. I mean, people are scared. And little things like when there's a big hoo-ha in the British Parliament about giving bribes in Saudi Arabia for jet planes. Get over it, man. That's their culture.
I know, but again, talking about culture and talking about just the beast, the human, even though at the top level we feel we're integrating, we still have all of those issues. About
to get over on red light. So he says, okay, what's your Christian name? I said, there you are. I'm a Muslim. I'm not. I'm a Muslim and you really offended me. And they start stammering and stuttering. And so somehow racism is the only thing you can't do. Otherwise, treating people badly is okay. If you're a Sunderland supporter, and people do it very subtly. You know, I've seen in McDonald's, which I've studied, the guys there are highly trained. The lads and lasses who work on the front desk, they're very good people. And they're trained in this, and we have trained them further on when they didn't need any. But I can see there's a guy who's gay. I didn't even see him as gay. Okay, he's a bit kind of gentle. But I didn't see, I thought he was a very gentle man. But I saw from behind him while I was filming, some people come and walk past him. As I saw men and women walk past a girl in a hijab. So English people are very clever at disguising their bad attitudes.
Yes.
Because English people are very polite, but they're just as racist as anybody else. They do it politely. Would you agree with that?
Can
I mean,
just
yes,
make a
yes.
point?
Oh, here's an Englishman who's speaking.
One of the problems we have in our society is that we get easily embarrassed. And quite often when we're embarrassed, when we're confronted with something,
You look away.
we don't. We do say the wrong things and
Okay,
things.
okay.
So we have great difficulty accepting and understanding and confronting things like disabilities. And that's just
Or
a culture.
bereavement.
Or bereavement.
You know, I go to Asda and my son had died about 7 years ago and 8 years ago. He committed suicide. For 6 months, whenever I went into any aisle, all the patients who knew me would change their aisle and start buying something else that they didn't want or need, you know. It's true because they are embarrassed.
They don't know what to say. Yes.
They know what to say, yeah. So possibly that's what it is, you know. And is that why English people need more political correctness than, say, in India?
No, I think the
India doesn't need political correctness.
I don't know.
We
I don't know if
don't
political
either.
correctness is the right thing, because what you start to get, when we were talking about this a few weeks ago, about you get some government boffin who comes out with all these words that we're supposed to use. Well, they're not going to stick. It doesn't matter. It's about just treating somebody as a person.
Yeah.
Ignoring whether what color the skin is, what gender, what age, whether they've got a disability or not. It's treating somebody as a person.
Yes.
And if we can
But
do
that is
that,
very difficult, you know.
oh, it is absolutely.
Now, I've said this on many shows. A lot of people, when they've come to the studio, would say, Dr. Anand, because that happens to be your name, or say Anand. Anand, who's on radio, is more relevant. The Asian guy who's loud and rude and crude, which is also true. So it's how you label people, how you put a sticker on their foreheads.
Yes.
If I meet a lady who's very good in therapy, I don't have to say that Iranian Muslim woman. I'll say the lady who's a good therapist. So it's relevant to the cause.
Yes.
Isn't
Yes, it doesn't matter whether you.
I mean, really, the team we have here are very much into disability. So if we are talking disability, Namaste, Adab, Sat Sri Akal, a very good afternoon to you. Happy Diwali to all my friends, particularly to the non-Hindus, because the Hindus know about it. Special Diwali to my Muslim friends, my Buddhist friends, my Jain friends, and even the very large population of Christian friends or failed Christians or failed Hindus or failed Muslims. It's a celebration. It's nothing to do with religion, really. It's a cultural thing. Diwali is a festival of lights, and in the background, though we are talking in English, you shall hear some Hindi film songs which are celebrating Diwali. Happy songs only. So here we go. Today we have a very fascinating show. We've got two people in wheelchairs. Well, we're all sitting on wheelchairs. I'm sitting on an executive wheelchair with 5 little wheels. Somebody sent me an email. What I really want to do is to share with you the feelings of two generations of families, two completely different generations. We've got a young lad of 21 and a young lad of 51?
61.
61. Oh my God. You're 40 years older than him.
Something like that.
Aye. So it's a very different feel, isn't it?
I was that old.
Isn't it a very different feel about how we treat... I'll just put the volume up.
Well, I'm imagining so that going back to this is Steve, wheelchair Steve. He hasn't done the introductions yet.
Yeah, sorry.
He's,
Well, you introduce everyone.
well, I'll introduce. Steve, wheelchair Steve, who's the regular on this Thursday program. And if you remember last week, if you listened in, we had Tom, Phil, and Rod Pugh, who were developing a new wheelchair, and that chair was being developed for their son Tom, who was here today in his normal wheelchair. And what we're going to talk about is Tom, as you've just heard there, is a lot younger than me, and we're going to talk about the how things are different from my day as being brought up with
from both sides, from the public's perception of how they receive people
attitudes.
who happen to be in a wheelchair,
Definitely.
or people. I mean, it goes against equality, diversity, and all that stuff. But let's stick to.
Well, I was born and brought up as a child in the pre-DDA Disability Discrimination Act times.
So what were you called? A cripple?
Well, I've been called a cripple, yes.
So cripple,
not so much. I was never. I've been called a cripple once.
Well, I've been called a packy twice.
The one that you used to be called was handicapped or an invalid.
Handicapped is slightly invalid is another bad word.
Well, handicapped is still what they use in the States. I think if you go there, it's handicapped.
That whole country is handicapped.
Well, possibly, but they call like the blue badge that we have here. They call it the handicapped.
The blue badge, which was the orange badge.
Which used to be the orange one.
And then I'm an Indian who's not a red Indian. But carry on. Sorry. These are just words meant to confuse and obfuscate.
Yes. And even I'm not great comfort with the word disabled because. To me, people get called the disabled. You're part of a clan that is...
You're put in a trap.
Well, jobs going abroad.
Yes.
So as soon as we would say, right, we're going to manufacture in China or somewhere outside of the UK,
yes,
there is a consequence. Why don't we manufacture inside the UK? Now, the argument changes from one that is cultural and social to one that becomes financial and political and commercial.
Yes.
And that muddies the water.
Yes.
We can't separate them. In our present social model, we can't. We find it impossible. And therefore, we never come to the right conclusions and we still have...
But for all the wrong reasons, India and Pakistan hate each other. But once they start exchanging sugar, music, facilities, how can they hate each other? How can you? I mean, imagine your wheelchair wheels were made in... The left wheel is made in Sunderland and the right wheel made in Newcastle. How can you hate each other, man?
Which is built.
I would buy 2 Newcastle wheels.
You see, tribalism is of the lowest essence. People don't want to hear this, but if you're a tribal, if you're a nationalist, if you're a religious bigot, and don't keep religion in your own heart, but have to tell Dr. Anand what you are, you're a tribal. It's so sad. People don't, if you look at the human brain, the top 85% is non-tribal. It's from mixing with new people. They might be white, they might even be disabled, they might even be able-bodied, they might even be well-spoken.
But it's first impressions, isn't it? That's the thing that when you see somebody, the first few seconds of seeing somebody, you make an impression, and as you said earlier on, they see the colour of your skin, they see somebody in a wheelchair,
and that's it.
They're then starting to visualise what
a wheelchair person should be.
Yes, well, what their perception is from years gone by, or what their families have said about people in wheelchairs. Whatever they've been brought up with who a person in a wheelchair is, or how they behave.
Okay, isn't it time for Tom to tell us some jokes? Because you're talking so serious, man. Dad, come on, say some jokes that Tom will laugh at. I want to see his laughter.
Okay, Tom, what do you reckon? Shall we have the joke about why do jelly beans go to school?
Why do jelly beans go to school?
You know why, Tom? Because they want to be smarties.
Oh!
Just look at those viewing figures going up.
I think that's funny.
On this radio program.
Or on the other hand, you could say, what do you call a train full of lecturers or professors?
What do you call a train full of lecturers or professors?
A tube of Smarties.
Oh, God. I enjoy them because they're new. They're different, aren't they?
Yes, well, I can't remember getting these from my era. I had Smarties. I remember Smarties, but never...
Do you think your dad is an eternal kid, a Peter Pan?